Bam bam. Okay. Hi, hello, and Uwu voice for 2 minutes. Right when we're getting started? Okay. Hi, hello, how are you doing? Good evening, good afternoon. Yes, depending on whatever part of the world you're in. That is exactly right. Hello, hello. I hope you guys are good. It is still way too hot outside and inside. It's horrible. It's horrible, really. But it's okay. We're going to be reading about some well, I don't actually know what to call this specific game, not gonna lie. But we're gonna have some fun, find out who the big bad wolf who's after us is. Hopefully we will finish that today. I don't think there was that much left of the route, actually. They're not terribly long games, honestly. Also, yes, I'm very much trying to stretch all that before we get started talk, so I don't have to actually read out the lines and ooh, ha ha ha. No, but for real though. Where did we leave last time? We saw some weird chatter outside, right after we were both recovering from our being sick and stuff. So we're trying to find if they left anything. I think that's where we left off, right? So there's just a little more left, basically. There's a few more choices. But we're almost there. I still don't remember most of it, not gonna lie. So it's almost as blind for me as it is for you guys. But only almost. Only almost. Any luck? Well, that makes sense considering that we literally saw someone stand in front of our window, yes. He crouched down, picked up a piece of broken string and held it up for me to see. Oh. Any chance it was a wild animal? Okay. Correct. Granted, they ran off almost immediately, but the silhouette had very distinctive pointy ears. So, is this proof that the culprit was here? Pointy ears, huh? I wonder who we know that has pointy ears. I see. Now that I think about it, this culprit doesn't seem very smart. Not only did they get caught in your trap, but they let their marks see them too. Not as long as I've got you with me. I beamed at him and he tucked his hood low as if to hide his face. Do you think they noticed the trap? Well, I mean, it does make a pretty loud noise, right? Yeah, if you weren't busy calling me to fucking death. Ha ha ha. Don't blame yourself, you did the best you could. What? Tripping over your tongue? Okay. Oh, wow, why does your cloak look darker now? Red and I sat on the sofa in silence, each of us lost in thought. My mind kept returning to the contents of the black mail letter and replaying the image of the pointy-eared shadow in the window. Then I realized Red had turned his attention to me. Why do I hear the vacuum cleaner? Now I'm fine on both counts. Thanks for worrying about me, though. What about you? How are you holding up? You sure? Oh, I don't know. To pretend you are strong and unshakable? I don't know, to avoid causing concern? There's a few possible reasons. Really? Not even little white ones? caught my cold now, haven't you?
気にしないでください。あなたに風邪をひかせてしまったのは私です。そのせいであなたには多大なご迷惑をおかけして。
You could say the same of me. Personally, I'd say we're even.
そうかもしれません。
Oh, look at that. He's finally smiling. He smiled slightly. Oh, hey, you smiled. This might be the first time I've ever seen you smile. Oh. He pulled his hood down low. That was when it hit me. Say, do you wear the riding hood specifically so you don't have to make eye contact with anyone?
そんなことはどうでもいいでしょう。
It matters a lot, actually. I'm trying to get to know you after all. There's so much about you I've yet to understand. And you want to get to know me too, don't you?
そんなことより犯人を捕まえる方が先決です。
Is that what you've been thinking about all this time?
そうです。別にあなたのことを考えて見つめていたりなどしていません。
I believe you. Absolutely, I believe you. Really?
本当だと思います。
I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Red, but your reaction suggests otherwise.
勘違い。
Oh god, he secretly admits too! Red tilted his head at me inquisitively as I clapped a hand to my forehead in exasperation, but just then, the phone began to ring. Who could it be?
私が出ます。
Oh, thank you. I'd appreciate it. Sweet girl was told that I smiled, didn't notice. I mean, it's nice though. Like, most of the time it's like, it's nice when you subconsciously smile without noticing yourself. That's cool, right?
はい。いえ、違います。はい。はい。では、失礼します。
Was it a wrong number?
そのようです。
Relieved, I let out a long breath and collapsed back against the sofa. Looks like the wolf has finally started to take action, huh? Why are they doing this to me?
わかりません。
Red fell silent after that. He and his oppressive silence, we were getting nowhere fast, so I decided to change the subject. I'm starving. I think I'm going to cook something. How about you? Got an appetite?
まあ。
Alright then, seeing as you're under the weather, I'll cook you up something nice. It'll be good to put some meat in your mouth. System! I changed my wording at the last minute to prevent any further bloodlust. Oh, is this another flashback? It hurts. I can't breathe. The next thing I know, I'm drowning in a watery abyss. As I choke, air escapes my lips in big bubbles that rise to the surface. All I can see is blue, and the deeper I sink, the darker it gets. I can't breathe. I flame my limbs desperately, but to no avail. My lean body refuses to cooperate, and the light grows ever more distant. If only I were a mermaid, this might not be so frightening, but alas, I am no mermaid. Everything's getting dark. Am I going to sink to the bottom? Someone, please help me. Ooh, help me in all caps. I woke with a scream. The first thing I saw was my old familiar ceiling.
どうしましたか、ミス・アリス。
Oh, hi, Red.
随分とうなされていたようですが、お加減はいかがですか？
No, just a nightmare. Well, I don't really remember what it was about, but I do remember feeling like I couldn't breathe.
やはりまだ風が治りきっていないのかもしれませんね。
Yeah, maybe. That was when I noticed a drop of sweat rolling down his forehead. He's sweating pretty hard.
ああ、本当ですね。
To make you feel embarrassed with just my words. Do I want to know? You're going to do it anyway. He wiped his brow with the back of his hand. Why didn't the angel pass the test? He felt the tension. That's pretty good though. I haven't heard it before, so good job. Here, use this. I opened the drawer, took out a handkerchief, and offered it to him. Alright, you don't want to touch me. Okay, how do we solve this? Why did the demon lose the fight? He was incapacitated. Oh, that's nice. I like that one. But before I could think of a way to get the handkerchief to him without touching him directly, he gingerly took it from my hand. Ooh, character development. The next day, this sucks. I was back at school after having stayed home sick yesterday, but when lunchtime rolled around, Wolfie was nowhere to be found. Don't be mean. Don't be rude. No, come on. I pouted. I used to eat alone all the time, but that all changed once I met Wolfie. Oi. I was pushed into a freezing lake in the middle of winter. I think even the best people would probably get sick after that. Keep being mean to me and I'll give you my germs. I spread my arms out in a hugging gesture only for Mr. Hunter to push my face away. Oh, I'm just kidding. Not that I care if you get sick, I just feel bad if it's spread around the school. I knocked his hand away and turned away in a huff. I scolded him. You're a jerk. You are my literal fucking brother. Have some empathy, please. Because otherwise you get emotionally invested. His eyes narrowed slightly. Meanwhile, I chuckled to myself and began to peck away our empty lunchboxes. After school, I met up with Red near the forest entrance and together we headed home. According to him, the shopping district was unsafe, thus we were forced to take a detour around it. Apparently, maybe there's a bug going around. Well, if he calls out sick tomorrow, I'd like to go check on him after school. Would that be okay? I'm pretty sure he lives... Yes? Red fixed me with a dubious look. Yes. Yeah? For some reason I thought I heard his tone deflate slightly. I stopped short. He followed suit. I walked directly in front of him, stared into his eyes and asked, "You're dying to know more, aren't you?" He didn't hesitate even a fraction of a second. This wasn't enough to discourage me, of course. The other day he said to me, "Keep acting like you're a sweet little lamb and some wolf's gonna come along and gobble you up. Awoo!" Bullseye! Panic flickered across Red's expression. Yes. Make up your mind already. He turned away blushing. The truth couldn't have been more obvious if he tried, so I decided to press further. Let me ask you this. Do you believe platonic friendship is possible between a man and a woman? It's a question! Answer it! I folded my hands behind my back and gently held his gaze. Me personally, I believe it is. I mean, sure, opposites attract, especially when it comes to the opposite sex. But that attraction doesn't have to be romantic, or so I'd like to believe anyway. The point is, my friend and I simply don't see each other that way. And do you know why that is? Because I'm in love with someone else. He's not a very good actor, is he? Yep. So? What makes you say that? I stared at him wide-eyed. I hadn't expected him to argue with me about this. Oh! That's an interesting way to compliment me. Sorry, could you repeat that for me? Without cracking a smile, I had my index finger aloft in a one more time gesture. No, not that bad. Could you start close to the beginning from "you're charming" also? He fell silent, probably from embarrassment. Poor guy. To spare me any further shame, I decided to change the subject a tiny bit. Do you want to know who it is I'm in love with? Yes? I doubt it. With this, I had evidently exceeded his patience. That's a shame. I sure wanted to tell you. Hi.
帰りましょ
Ooh. Visibly flashed that Red took off once more. Red, wait for me. Do not attempt to eat and speak at the same time. Doesn't work. I hastily hurried after him. Wow, your walk cycle looks so
う。
robotic.
誰のせいだと思ってるんですか
Mine?
そんなことあるわけないような。
Maybe. You think? Just outside the house, Red finally came to a stop. His nervous tension was gone. In its place, a hard stare. 2 Pfund Tomaten bitte. 6 Kilo. Sie war da nicht mit. How many pounds are they in a kilo? Or is it the other way around? I don't actually know which one is more. I think pounds is less than a kilo, right? His nervous tension was gone in its place, a hard stare. 2 pounds. Oh, 2 pounds are 1 kilo? Oh, I see. Red. He extended a hand to silence me, then gestured to me in a way that suggested someone was in the house. I nodded and felt perfectly still.
あなたは門の外に。5分経っても私が戻ってこなかったら、近くの交番に駆け込んで応援を頼みま
Let
す。
me hear you say the German words, German gremlin. Oh. A German man goes to the market. 2 Pfund Tomaten bitte, the farmer tells him. Das heißt Kilo. Seit wann denn nicht mehr Tomaten? Just for you. There you go. Understood. Be careful, okay? On his signal, the two of us went our separate ways. Red headed into the mansion, carefully concealing his presence as he maintained constant surveillance of his surroundings. As for me, I stopped just outside the gate and waited there per his instructions. This would soon prove to be the longest 5 minutes of my life. Each passing second felt like an eternity. I didn't have a watch on me, so instead I count to 300 in my head. Oh my god, Listen. Every time I try to count seconds, I mess up at some point, and then I don't know how much time has passed anymore. Just learning by a computer. I think German is a pretty hard language to learn. I say that every time I find out someone is learning German. Like, as a native speaker, I'm fine, but I think it's a hard language to learn. I couldn't very well see into the house from here, so I just stared at the door until Red stepped outside. Alone. He walked up to me, shaking his head sadly. Maybe we just missed them. Close. It would be spreche with an E instead of an A, but otherwise that is a perfectly valid sentence that you do not speak German. Shouldn't you go after them? Shh, like that matters. Okay, damn. I flinched as he shouted at me. It's fine. He struck me as panicked somehow. Much as I wanted to reach out and soothe him, I knew it would only fluster him all the more, so I hastily suppressed the urge. I really do appreciate all your concern. Will you stay with me then? Oh, for anyone it's easy to learn German, so I guess yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know how hard it is to learn the language. I've always been able to speak it. But I think it's quite hard. Like, there's enough native German speakers who don't know lots of things in the language, or like stuff that just gets lost in dialect, where technically it's not correct German anymore. So I imagine it's quite hard for other people to learn German, and then when they go somewhere where they do not speak German the way it is written, not like how, you know, you write French a specific way and you pronounce it differently, but just like if you go to Bavaria, and you just started learning German, you go to a place where they speak very heavy accented Bavarian, you're gonna want to die. Because you won't be able to understand them. So it's just like, you sure are saying words, but I cannot follow them. It's the same if you go to Switzerland and they speak Swiss German. To like, technically that is that is still German. I should be able to understand that. I do not. Swiss German, I have no fucking clue what these people are saying. Like, I'd have to concentrate really, really hard, and then I'd understand some parts and try to, you know, build a sentence in my head to make it make sense. But no fucking clue what these people are on about. No clue. It's just awful. I stared blankly at the wreckage before me. The flower vases and decorations in the entryway had all been knocked over, the cupboards flung open and their contents strewn all over the floor. Why? What did the flowers ever do to you? I could hear the sympathy in his voice. Sorry, I'm fine. I smiled to alleviate his concern, then bent down and scooped up a fallen flower. Poor thing. Just then I remembered the carnation sitting on my bedside table and took off running up the stairs. Could also try understanding Dutch at that point. Honestly, yeah. But Dutch is such a false friend. It's so similar so many times. But then they go in a completely different direction. You're just lost. I wanted to surprise a Dutch friend at some point and try to, you know, just build a sentence. And they were like, oh, that's nice of you, but that doesn't make any fucking sense. I was like, why not? I literally just took your sentence and rearranged it. Why? Is that not how your grammar works? And they were like, nope. No. No. That's... no. My room was a complete disaster. My favorite bedsheets and curtains were ripped to shreds and pillow stuffing covered the floor. I looked to the bedside table to find that the flower vase was gone. At that point, I just wanted to cry my eyes out. Silently, I walked into the room and scooped the carnation out of the debris. I felt a sharp pain in the tip of my finger and realized a bead of carnation red blood had formed there. Red grabbed me by the arm and dragged me down to the kitchen. Wait. Did you hurt yourself on the broken flower or on the carnation? Because carnations do not have thorns. Oh, are you kidding me? This is the same as yesterday. I don't understand. I hate it. I hate it. Why? Just let me stream like once without technical difficulties. I feel like when you get home and you find your entire home wrecked, that has to be one of the worst feelings in the world. Like that and losing your keys or finding out that your keys were stolen. I think those two are the worst things to happen to you, because it's like you're not safe in your own home anymore. Someone found keys to your home, or someone stole the keys to your home, ransacked it, whatever. Like you're not safe there. You are not safe there. Even though your home should be the one place you're safe in. Please work. I just want to stream. Why do you do this to me? I shall be gone for like a second. Maybe two. In hopes that this will work then. I don't understand why. I never had problems when I first started, but for some reason lately it's gotten more and more often that it just doesn't work. Also, okay, well, guess we'll use this other tracking again, which is slightly wonky. Okay, I am back. Please work now. Funny story. My desk lamp broke yesterday evening because it fell down into my trash can and separated the base from the part where the lamp is on. So I have no light at my desk, nothing. So that's fun. Ah yes, very small. I am very small. Okay, yes, I love being very small. Okay. Let's get back to the game. After I rinsed off my wound, I wrapped my finger in cloth and clutched it over my chest. Oh, okay, sure. I'm fine now, Red. Please just get this flower in some water. We can still save it. I shrank away slightly. Seeing me flinch, Red seemingly snapped to his senses. Okay, but it's literally just a cut on my finger. It could be worse. It's fine. After a long moment of silence, Red muttered under his breath. I do! It's not a worthless flower. You got it for me, and I am very thankful for that. Don't say that it's worthless. It's not worthless. It was a precious gift from you. His blonde lashes fluttered as he averted his gaze. I'm sorry for running off like that, and I'm sorry for scaring you. Oh my god, it's literally just a cut on her finger. We had a game where like half our arm was chopped off and eaten by our boyfriend. I think we will survive a cut to the finger. I shook my head. No, it's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. He still didn't meet my gaze, so I repeated myself. You did nothing wrong. At this, he finally looked up. Thank you for helping me. I took his hand in mine as I spoke. Later, once my wound stopped bleeding, we examined the rest of the house to assess the extent of the damage. Nothing out of place here either. Yeah. Yeah. Red hastily scrawled into his notepad. Oh, all of them. Or maybe it was a young man. Or it was a small man who just doesn't have very big feet. A relatively small man. A relatively small man who has pointy ears. Fingerprints, really. I forget that he's an actual policeman because he just doesn't look the part. As he spoke, Red began to dust a strange white powder on all the areas the culprit was likely to have touched. It felt like I was in a crime thriller. Afterwards, Red returned to me, looking grim. How'd it go? Damn. That's a shame. Why would they do this? My voice wavered.
普通に考えると物取りの線が濃厚です。
But what else are they searching for? They already got my keys. But if so, wouldn't they search every room?
あなたへの執着から考えるとあなたに関係するものに限定されていたのかもしれません。
But nothing was stolen.
慌てて出て行ったところを見るに来てそう間もなかったのかもしれませんね。それか物取りでないとしたら
They would just want to show off their power, that they could come into our house anytime they want. That's horrible. I'm aware. No, that's okay. Honestly, I'd rather you didn't try to tiptoe around my feelings. Just tell it to me straight. Besides, I have nothing to fear with my knight in shining armor right here to protect me. Do you see anyone else here? Do you see any other guys standing around? Oh, come on, now give me that. You said you'd protect me. I lost my patience and snapped at him. Sonekyo! Hey, there it is. She finally speaking Japanese again. I shot him the finger guns. Yeah, here's the last of it. Glad we could get the place all cleaned up. Red stood, broom and dustpan in hand, staring out the window. Was he lost in thought? I slowly snuck up behind him and reached out to touch him. But before I made contact, Red jumped away in surprise. Haha, scared you, huh? How did he get to be a policeman? Can't do many jobs with women and wolf. Yeah, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. I mean, he can handle them if they don't get close to him, I guess. Trying to touch you, obviously. I almost got you too. I winked. Predictably, this set his cheeks aflame. Shouldn't you be used to it by now? Me and my antics, silly. Aww. And I ignored you because it was rude. I pouted my lips. Don't apologize. You're just going to make me feel worse. This time I put my face in my hands and sobbed. You're such a jerk. I just want us to be friends, that's all. Just kidding. I grinned at him, tilting my head cutely. Gotta have a partner though if he has to catch a criminal woman. Yeah, I don't really get how he actually has a job, right? Like, what would he do? He can't follow bad guys on his own either. It's like you need someone to walk with you. Hey, admit the crying was fake, but everything I said was the honest truth. The fight or flight comment did hurt my feelings, and I do want to be friends. I genuinely want to be close to you. Both physically and emotionally. I aimed the finger gun and fired a shot at his heart. Bang! As I smirked up at him, he averted his eyes and fell silent. Anyway, you were thinking about the wolf, am I right? Tell me, what's on your mind? Did you learn something new about them? His voice faltered. Just then, our conversation was interrupted by an ear-splitting crash. What the? I recognized it immediately as the sound of breaking glass. Which glass, you ask? The window pane directly behind Red. The next thing I knew, Red had pulled me into an embrace. As I froze in surprise, he scooped me up into his arms and carried me to the relative safety of the bed. Wait, isn't her room on the first floor? Wait, huh? How did that even work with the person in front of the... Wait, what? It was also said my heart was something out of control. Red looked over at the window. The answer was obvious, of course. It had to be the wolf. No, I'm fine. Once he made sure I was unarmed, Red heaved a sigh of relief. Almost like he didn't even realize he'd embraced and carried me just now. What about you? Are you hurt at all? At last I found the mental composure to worry about something other than my own safety. Truth be told, I cared way more about his well-being than my own. Listen, I'm glad that you care for my safety, but maybe next time someone tries to attack us through a window, you should actually try and see who it is before they get away. Relief was written all over his face. Oh, Red. My heart skipped a beat. Embarrassed, I stared down at the floor. Grief, anger, an uneven mix of emotions swelled in my chest. Now they've really crossed the line. As my gaze wandered over the remains of the window, I noticed a baseball lying on the floor. Where did that come from? Red stooped and picked it up. Oh, so who needs carrier pigeons when you can throw baseballs through someone's window? Sure enough, there was a sheet of paper fixed to it. I would have preferred the carrier pigeon. Listen! I need to stop predicting in game. My little joke went unheard as Red unfolded and began to read the letter. His expression was so deadly serious I didn't feel comfortable breaking the silence. But after he was done reading, or perhaps partway through, Red began to crumple the letter into a ball. What did it say? Eh? Please, just tell me. At my request, he reluctantly dropped the wad of paper into my palm. My heart thumping my chest, I unfolded it and began to read. Oh, that's very nice writing. You betrayed me. I gave you a chance, but it looks like you still don't understand what it is you've done. If you refuse to admit your crime, then I killed someone you care about. And then I drown you in the lake. No crime goes unpunished. Repent your sins in hell. I repeat, no crime goes unpunished. It was without a doubt another blackmail letter. Unlike the first, however, it was dripping with malicious intent. Whoever they were demanding justice. I literally don't know what that person is on about, though. I had anticipated something like this, of course, but it didn't make it any easier to swallow. No crime goes unpunished. I murmured away aloud without realizing. Oh, I looked up to find Red staring at me, his hand outstretched in my direction. He awkwardly retracted his hand. He must have wanted to console me. Much as I was tempted to take his hand or give him a hug, I knew I couldn't. I hung my head, pursing my lips tightly together. Just then I felt a bad shift. Startled, I looked up to find Red sitting next to me, his face a deep scowl. Look at that! He's trying very hard for us. Then he put his hand on mine. Oh. He stared pointedly at the broken glass as he spoke. It must have taken tremendous courage to overcome his discomfort. Thank you. His kindness made my heart ache. Together we cleaned up the shards of glass, then returned to the living room. Yeah, maybe so. Not that I had much of a choice now that my bedroom window was broken. There were other bedrooms in the house, of course, but I didn't have keys to them, which meant I'd have to break down the door to get in. Not exactly ideal. I realized locking the front door it is a good idea, yes. But why would you lock the other rooms in your house when they are not being used because no one is home to use them? She can't even clean them. Like, huh? Like, what if someday her parents come back home and like, oh, okay, let's go to sleep, sweetie. Open up the room and it's just, you know, because it hasn't been cleaned in months. I flopped down into the sofa. The next thing I knew, a sheet of soft red velvet descended over me. What the? Thank you, you're an angel. You sure? You're always looking out for me. Don't just stand there, come over here and have a seat. I sat up to make room for him beside me on the sofa. After a moment of hesitation, he sat down, as far from me as possible. But he did sit down! It's an improvement. Sure enough, the moment we made eye contact, he pulled his hood down low. You're always wearing that riding hood, aren't you? You must be really attached to it. I didn't realize it was part of his daily wear. I thought it came with the uniform.
はい。
Where did you buy it?
いえ、もらったものです。
But if this was given to him when he was a child, and it's this big, how fucking big was it on him as a child? From the one friend you mentioned.
友人のおばあさんにです。
Oh, she must be really talented. And she has an eye for style too.
そうなんです。おばあさんはとても器用で、料理も裁縫もできるんです。
He suddenly balled his hands into fists as he spoke.
すみません。
Aww. No, don't apologize. Tell me more.
あなたには関係のない話です。
So what? I still want to know. After a long pause, Red reluctantly gave in.
昔々のことです。私は生まれつき人と少し違っていて、そのせいで周囲に馴染めず、学校にも行かず、毎日一人で湖を眺めていました。そんな時、出会ったのが友人です。彼は無視し続ける私に対し、しつこく話しかけました。正直、鬱陶しかったのですが、ある日、彼は私を家に招待してくれました。
In the middle of the fucking woods, which is a perfectly safe place for an old woman to live.
おばあさんをとても慕っていました。彼のおばあさんは怒るととっても怖くて、でもとても優しくて、見ず知らずの他人である私にもいろいろと良くしてくれました。そんなおばあさんのことを嫌いになれるはずもなく、私
But
は毎
something
日
happened.
遊びに行くようになりました。
Dun dun dun.
おばあさんはケーキを作るのが得意で、よく焼いてくれたり、破れた服を縫ってくれたり、面白い話をしてくれたり、私のことを本当の。そんなある日、おばあさんは私に赤い頭巾をプレゼントしてくれました。誰かに物をもらったのは初めてだったので。
Still though, if it was this size when you got it as a child, then you must have drowned in it.
姿が当たり前のようになって、いつの間にか手放せないようになってしまいました。
Or maybe she simply worked on it and made it bigger. Sounds like these people were both really important to you.
はい。
He smiled, a faint, wistful smile, but in the next instant it was gone.
こんな時にでも、あなたのご家族はあなたを心配なさらないのですか？
No. Huh?
あなたの危機だというのに、未だ連絡の一つもありません。
Well, I mean, oh, yeah. I smiled
あ
sadly.
なたの家族は無責任です。いくら他にやることがあるからといって。
My lack of response brought him back to his senses.
失礼しました。あなたのご家族を他人である私がどうこう言う
No,
資
you're
格はあ
correct
りませ
though.
ん。
Thank you.
え？
Thank you for worrying about me, for caring about me.
そんなんではありますような。
Hehe.
あなたといると調子が狂う。
Does it?
そうだです。
How so?
あなたと目が合うだけで変な動機がして胸が
Ah,
苦
my
しく
nose
なっ
is
て
itchy.
ついでに息も苦しくなって。
Hey.
でもどうしてもあなたのことが気になってつい目で追ってしまって。
That sounds like quite the predicament you're in.
さっきの話だって誰にも話す気なんてなかった。
Hehehe. So what, you don't like talking to me?
いやではありません。
Never. So you do like it? Well?
好きです。勘違いするなよ。その好きっていうのはあなたが面白いからであって、本当の私はこんなんじゃなくて、硬派で冷静で頭が良くて、誰かの力に頼らないで 自分だけの力で行動する男なんです。
Yeah, I know. You're pretty dreamy. That's why being around you makes me so flustered and talking to you is so much fun.
そうですか。私もあなたと一緒にいるのは悪くありません。
Hi, that time. Okay. Thank you. We... Okay. Ooh. Sure. Let's confess our feelings. Let's fucking go for it. Let's go! Red, there's something I want to say. I really like you. Both as a friend and as a romantic prospect. Did you not hear what I said? Okay, here it is again. I really like you, Red. Oh, you're bleeding! I used a fresh handkerchief to sop up the blood from another one of his chronic nosebleeds. You should really get that checked out, dude. Red. I peered into his eyes. Normally this is the part where he'd scream and or shove me away, but this time he froze in place like a statue. Hello? I waved my hand in front of his face, no dice. Is your fever flaring up again? I put my hand to his forehead. He didn't even flinch. Admittedly, his forehead did feel warm, as did the rest of his face, which was currently tomato red. Just then. As I pressed my hand against him, he roughly seized me by the wrist. He glared at me, his cheeks flushed crimson.
Miss Alice.
Yes. Wow, I even predicted the stutter. I shrank back, but he refused to relinquish his grip on my wrist. Instead, he leaned in. Bro, are you good? Red. Right as the tip of his nose brushed mine. Ugh! A ton of blood spewed forth and he collapsed onto my chest. Superpower, freezing people with confessions. Hehe. I don't understand romance. I don't understand emotions, especially not hers. How can I get her to notice me? When I arrived home at our little cottage, no one was there to greet me. It was so dark and quiet that for a moment it felt like all that boisterous fun earlier was merely a dream. When I flicked on the lights, I noticed a small amount of money on the table. This was my food money. You see, my mother worked at the flower shop. She worked from morning until night and was rarely ever home. Whenever she did come home, however, she always left me some money for food. The house was always empty. No people, nothing. To me this was normal. Emptiness was normal, and my heart was empty too. But recently things had changed. Lately I despised going home. Each night I wished I could skip 12 hours ahead to the next day. I longed to spend my time in the sunshine with my two favorite people. I yearned for that warmth. My dinner at night could never compare to grandmother's home cooking earlier that day. I clutched the Red Riding Hood, her gift to me, in my hands. Here in this empty house, it was my one and only treasure. I'm sorry, Lord, I'm a bad kid. Whenever my mother was around, she would always tell me, well, whatever that mother is doing is very much child neglect, because I doubt she's actually spending all that time working at the flower store. Especially because she tells her child to not go outside the entire day. Like, you are not at home because you work, and you tell your child to stay home the entire day. Not talk, like, okay, do not talk to strangers, that is valid, but like, you're keeping a child at home with nothing to do, no food, nothing. Hello? Police? But I broke that promise. I disobeyed my mother, left the house, and even befriended a wolf. Not only that, but I received a gift from the wolf's grandmother, and I loved it with all my heart. I knew I was doing something wrong, and yet I just couldn't keep myself away from grandmother's house. One day I randomly came to a stop outside the flower shop. The flowers on display were radiant and beautiful, as were the smiles of the women admiring them. Just then I thought of grandmother. It occurred to me that perhaps she'd appreciate a return gift as a thank you for the Red Riding Hood. Unfortunately, I didn't have the money to buy flowers. So I decided to go looking for flowers in the forest. Fortunately, I managed to find a few small ones, so I picked them and headed off to grandmother's house. I hung my head in shame. That's nice. I held up the flowers I picked in the forest, and sure enough, she looked positively delighted. Aww. Well, something horrible is going to happen, isn't it? When grandmother praised me, it made me feel like maybe I wasn't such a bad kid after all. Because the original grandson is going to feel envious now. On my way home, I passed by the flower shop once again. The flowers there were all much bigger and more beautiful than the ones from the forest. In an instant, I quickly grew ashamed of myself. Perhaps she would have preferred a flower from the shop over some measly forest wildflowers. But with the money I had on hand, I could scarcely afford a little flower, much less a big, impressive one. So what was my solution? Simple. I decided to save up my money. I didn't get an allowance, so instead I decided to use my food money as flower money. Naturally, I still needed to eat, so I bought the cheapest canned food I could find and subsisted off of that. The thought of a smiling face made it easier to ignore my hunger. In the meantime, I continued to pick flowers from the forest every day. He's gonna pick the entire forest at some point, huh? Grandmother would praise me each time I brought her flowers, and each time I deluded myself into thinking I wasn't a bad kid. Then one day my friend said to me, "Hey! Hey!" Oh. Because my friend had a weak constitution, he was barred from strenuous physical activity. Thus, grandmother had asked me to watch over him and make sure he didn't run himself wrecked. Oh, he's definitely going to overdo it. As I protested, my friend grew red in the face and began to shout at me. Bang. No, I just want you to stay safe, you know, as one does. True. Hey. Stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Because there's things one simply does not say. Oh. Oh my god, I literally just remembered what happens. Thank you, brain, for bestowing upon me the gift of memory. Oh god, that's going to hurt my heart again. As he spoke, he pointed at me. He was right, of course. I knew I was a bad child deep down. Uh-oh. Just then he doubled over, clutching at his chest. All the color drained from his face as he grimaced in pain. Grandmother dashed over to him in a hurry, and in the process she dropped the flowers I had given her. As he writhed in pain, she held him close and spoke in a shaky voice. That was the moment I understood. I could act like an angel and give her flowers all I wanted, but I would never be her real grandson. The sun rose on the horizon. Meanwhile, Red was sound asleep on the sofa. He must have been exhausted after everything that happened yesterday. I stroked his head through the fabric of his riding hood. Truth be told, I was tempted to take his hood off, but I knew better. After all, the Red Riding Hood meant the world to him. No one but him had the right to remove it. I leaned in and whispered in his ear. I'm going to fix you, Red. What? Don't tell people you're going to fix them. No. That's not the phrasing I would have used. 2 hours later. Oh, good morning, Red. I was in the middle of making breakfast when Red sat up on the sofa. I froze in place for a moment. Maybe he wasn't entirely awake yet. Red. I raised my voice a little louder. He sprang back and tumbled off the sofa. Are you okay? Oh, what? Oops. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip that. What about the wolf? What about him? Red seized me by the shoulders. No? Yeah, which means you should be very rested when you want to protect me. Oh, I'm sorry. At least he didn't scream at me this time. Never mind. Oh no, it's fine. Spoke too soon. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. You just looked so peaceful and I couldn't bear to ruin it. I'm sorry. I'll be sure to wake you next time. I promise. Normally I would have liked to do a pinky swear, but given his condition, I was better off not pushing my luck. Oh, that reminds me, breakfast is ready. As soon as he saw what was waiting for him on the table, his eyes grew round as saucers. It's a skillet cake. After you mentioned baking cakes yesterday, I felt like making one myself. I was hoping to make it a little fancier than this, but I didn't have enough time or ingredients on hand. Sorry. The cake itself was baked in a skillet? I don't know. Using soft wet flour and baking soda. Then added whipped cream, jam, and mint leaves as a garnish. All told, it was still a rather plain cake, but at least this way it resembled something along the lines of a chiffon cake. Man, I haven't baked in such a long time. Oh really? I should have asked for more details. Can you tell me more about them? Yeah, no promises of course, but I give it my best shot. I am pretty handy in the kitchen after all. This time it was my turn to look at him in surprise. Usually he'd always eat my cooking in complete silence, so his opinion of my skill had been a total mystery until now. Oh yes, of course! He sliced off a forkful and shoved it into his mouth. How is it? Really? Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. Go ahead and have as much as you like, okay? I can make as many of these as you want. Oh, and also, do you have any other requests or favorite dishes? Just say the word and I'll do my best to make as much as you want. I got so excited I started babbling at 1,000 miles a minute and kept repeating as much as you want for some reason. What? In contrast to my giddiness, Red looked somewhat conflicted. I tilted my head at him, encouraging him to speak his mind. It had now been a week since I received the first blackmail letter and 5 days since Red's arrival at my house. Once again, I was headed off to school. I wasn't going to let anything stop me, not even a big bad wolf in his mean, scary blackmail. Well, I'd rather go to school than be stuck at home in fear for my life, I guess. Yep. I doubt the stalker would break into the school to try and kill me, not gonna lie. Like, I don't really see that happening. So you think I should just hide in my house forever? I don't think so. Red has been bickering with me about this all morning. It's strange. He never would have acted like this just a few short days ago. But maybe this was to be expected. After always being pursued by a scary, vicious wolf. What's the problem? You protect me, won't you? That's good enough for me. Sounds like I can really count on you. Right. Hey, we both started talking at the same time, then both hesitated in unison as well. You first. With neither of us willing to go first, an awkward silence descended between us. We were getting nowhere fast, so eventually I caved. What do you plan to do after the case is closed? When I asked you last time, you said you'd leave as soon as the wolf is apprehended, right? I see. After a moment of silence, I looked into his eyes and said, what if I ask you to stay? I really like... Every time I attempted to profess my feelings for him, he interrupted me with the force of 1,000 suns. Good grief, how shy can one guy be? Not that I don't love that about him, of course. What were you going to say? I casually changed the subject. He faltered. The light seemed to leave his eyes. Oh! No, I just realized we're already almost at the school. Well, anyway, are we going now? I gracefully spun my heel and turned toward the school building. I quickly found, however, that I was unable to move. Why, you asked? Because Red had grabbed me by the arm and was refusing to let me go. All at once he leapt away, his face flushed scarlet. That's a very cute impulse, my good dude. No, it's fine. Evidently, even when he wasn't quite sure why, he'd grabbed me. Oh, he's going to absolutely lose his mind. He shrank down into a ball as he mumbled to himself. Much as I wanted to stay and relish the moment, I had classes to attend. I crouched down and looked into his eyes. Okay, I really gotta go now. He jumped to attention and saw me off with a dutiful salute. That's nice. What's wrong? Feeling sick or something? Well, damn, look the other way then. Rude! If you keep bullying me, I'm not gonna make your lunch anymore. Yet you still eat it every time I bring it to you, huh? Oh, right. Hey, that obvious, huh? Anyways, yes, things are going well, better than they were before at any rate. It's been a busy week, to say the least. I slumped my shoulders. His expression didn't shift a fraction, but his tone took on a hint of amusement. Exhausted, actually. Did you see the damage? Flower beds trampled, house ransacked, and a broken window. That's crossing a line. How would he actually know? He doesn't seem to care at all about what happens to us. I mean, yeah, but is Wolfie out sick again today? Yep, I even baked a cake. I held up my wicker basket containing small get well gifts. You don't care at all, do you? Why do I keep doing this? If Wolfie were here, he'd say, "Whoa, you're for reals? That's so awesome. I knew I could count on you, Stunner," or something along those lines. Sadly, my imitation of Wolfie, which I'll have you know was extremely accurate, didn't win me any points with Mr. Huntsman. Don't give me that look. It's like talking to a brick wall. This is why you can never keep a girlfriend, you know? Well, I mean, sure, buddy. Don't blame me when you end up alone at age 40. With that comeback, Mr. Huntsman pulled a lollipop out of his jacket pocket and started to unwrap it.
そんなことより狼の家に見舞いに行くんだろ。あいつには俺から連絡しといてやるよ。突然来られても迷惑だろうしな。
Thank you.
じゃあ帰れ。
Oh, come on, let's keep chatting a little more.
俺はな、お前と違って暇ではないんだ。
Well, then I have classes. But we're on lunch break. He frowned at me, the lollipop stick poking out from between his lips. Ohanashi shimashou yo. Let's talk. Mr. Huntsman, am I a bad person?
ああ、そうだな。悪い子だ。というわけだ。
I wonder if they're actual siblings or if one of us is adopted because it feels so awkward. On the other hand, maybe that's just how real siblings are. I wouldn't know, I'm an only child. No crime goes unpunished, which means I might get my just desserts here soon. Mr. Huntsman listened to me intently.
狼か。
Yes.
まあ、脅迫状からわかる通り、狼は独自の正義感の持ち主。
Why do you literally not care?
何をしでかすかは。
Technically, it's also your home that was broken into. Are you worried? That's so sweet. I wonder what Red's up to right
お
now.
前を監視してるんだろ。
Yep, to keep me safe.
嬉しそうだな。
I know, messed up, isn't it? As I spoke, I wandered to the window. Outside, Red was patrolling around the school gates, looking anxious. Think he'd come over here.
来ないだろ。
There's still so much I don't know about him.
今更すぎるだろ。 だいたい1週間も経ってないのに相手のことが。
It's definitely possible to be like that as siblings. Okay. Okay, I'll take it.
どうせお前のことだから一緒にいるうちに好きになってちょっといい雰囲気になったからって。
But still, I'd imagine he would at least care a little more that our actual life seems to be in danger. Got me there.
お前はオープンすぎて一般人の感性に合わないんだ。売られてもいいのか。
Honestly, I could live with that.
そういえばお前はそうだったな。
I don't care if the one I love rejects me as long as it means he'll be happy.
相変わらずよくわからん思考回路
That's a nice way to look at things, though. Isn't that your job? Or is that a hunter license just for show?
漁師だからこそ言うんだろ。
Wait, what does being a hunter entail? Wouldn't a hunter be someone who hunts animals? I smirked at him. Then as my gaze casually drifted to the window, I spotted Rand glancing around nervously as he headed into the school building. Oh!
なんだ。
He's coming this way, I gotta go.
ユリカ。
Yes.
狼には気をつけろよ。
Okay. Red!
ミス・アリス。
What are you doing here? He pressed his index finger to his lips. Then he gestured for us to move toward the bushes, so I obliged. No, really, what's going on?
すみません。見つかったら追い出されるかと思って。
Yeah, that makes sense. You're definitely a suspicious person on school grounds. I wanted to disagree, but instead I laughed
と
vaguely.
りあえず無事でよかった。
Of course I'm safe here. I've got my very own support network.
そういえばご友人がいるんでしたっけ。
Who's out sick?
男の。
Still. Yeah, he's part of it, but he's been out sick since yesterday.
昨日から。
Yeah, didn't I tell you he caught a cold? The look on his face suggested he had only just remembered. But it's no big deal, not like anything's happened, you know? I gave a cute little shrug. But this time he looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Haven't seen one in a while. Plus, it's not like I don't have any other friends.
まあ言いたいことはいろいろとありますが。
The other friends that we have not yet seen.
あなたが無事でよかった。
That definitely do exist, though. He heaved a sigh of relief. On further inspection, he looked a bit pale for some reason. Is something wrong?
いえ。
Are you feeling sick? Is your fever flaring up again?
いえ、違います。ただ、あまりここにはいたくないというか。
Are you too old to be in school? After a moment of contemplation, I clapped my hands together. Alright then, let's skip school. I want to go visit my friend anyway, so this works out perfectly.
何を突然。
I wonder. I have never skipped school. Like, In the sense that you simply went home, because that would work here. Like, you can't just go home. Because the teachers would then ask where you are. And then you'd get written up for not being at school without an excuse. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I just was going about it the right way. Maybe there's a way to skip school. I never did it. I don't know. Ignoring his palpable hesitation, I took a few steps forward, then spun on my heel. Be going on a date, Red? Yeah! To the lake. Hello, Earth to Red. I waved my hand in front of his face. Yeah, I noticed. It's fine. Yeah, I don't care. Truth be told, I'm no angel. Normally I'd like to take you someplace fancy like a movie theater, but that'll have to wait for another time. A movie theater? Where? So this game is set in absolute, complete modern times. It doesn't look that way. And so we found ourselves at the lake shore. During weekdays, the entire forest area was deserted, enabling a relative level of privacy. Personally, I was in the mood to break out our lunchboxes and have a picnic, so I stepped my fork into one of the bacon-wrapped asparagus spears and offered it to Red. Say, ah! Blushing, he quickly leaned back. Darn. Oh well, I tried. I promptly gave up and put the fork in my own mouth instead. What was that? Oh, you wanted to try it, don't you? Haha! His pouty face was so unbearably adorable, I couldn't help but swoon a little. Oh yeah, and I've got some leftover cake from breakfast, so let me know if you'd like some. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. The word cake reminded me of something else. Could you tell me more about your friend's grandma's cake? Did she give you the recipe? Ooh, wow, well that's very... That could be a great many things. Purple in color with grapish things inside. What did it taste like? I see. Sounds like my recipe isn't too far off then. I just need to change up the ingredients. Oh well. Yeah, I don't think you will get it. Ew, why would you put an eggplant into an cake? Wait, what? How come? It seems last time when I played this game I used a different guide, because the guide I'm using right now has different choices. You can see it, because you can see whenever you have taken one choice before it shows up like that. Seems like I did 2 other choices last time around. Well, that's okay. I think I might know what to do. Maybe. Yeah, give it a try sometime. But then again, you're going to leave right after you catch the wolf, so... Huh? Ooh! I mean... Oh, that's not my text. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Of course you can visit me, silly. It's that Daikange. Daikange. You're always welcome at my house. Oh, she's really getting out the Japanese now. He smiled shyly. Aww. You are silly. You're guarding me right now, aren't you? And you took care of me when I was sick, and you made me porridge, and you bought me a flower. If anything, you're the one spoiling me, so if there's ever anything I can do for you, just say the word. What the? What was lewd about that? Does he just have his mind in a guy 24/7? He swayed unsteadily, his hand clutched over his nose. Are you okay? find my foot. You look white as a sheet. I have no clue what clothesline him is even supposed to mean. Summoning my resolve, I got to my feet. Red. Take this. Once his guard was down, I lunged at him and tickled his sides. Good, good. That's the reaction I was hoping for. I don't think you should tickle someone when they're having a nosebleed, but okay. In the heat of the moment, I pushed him down. With me sitting on top of him and smirking, Red froze stock still like an ice sculpture. So I took that opportunity to shift into a lap pillow position. Once I lifted his head and placed it on my thighs, Red snapped back to reality. Aww. It's a lap pillow trope you didn't know you wanted. Yes. Quiet down now. I looked down at him sharply. Oh, he's going to lose his mind. Nose gushing blood, Red opened and shut his mouth repeatedly, but no words came. Meanwhile, his complexion was a kaleidoscope of colors, flushed 1 minute and pallid the next. If you keep bleeding this much every day, you're going to end up anemic. I pulled out a handkerchief and mopped him up. That has to be one big fucking handkerchief to mop up an entire nosebleed's worth of blood. Or maybe other people just have very small nosebleeds. Yes. He called my name between gasps of breath. As I peered down at him, however, he averted his gaze. You like a broken record today. I stroked the golden strands of hair peeking out from beneath his hood. Oh, sorry, I wasn't thinking. If you don't like this, just say the word and we can stop. I know what you're thinking. Oh, now you ask, and all I have to say is this. Better late than never. He didn't respond. I guess that means he's fine with it. After an awkward silence, Red seemed to regain his composure. Of course not. What? No. No. No, just you, really. What do you mean, the real you? The real you that has me trying to open my window. Because it looks like there's finally going to be some better air coming in from outside. Whoa, Jesus. Hello. Smack. He felt silent, grimacing. I stared at him intently. As I recall, the real you is, what was it you said? Stoic, rational, smart, and self-reliant? I recited his professed self-image back to him. I really hikey dubbed that. Red. There's a bad ending here. If you say you're no different, you get a bad ending. But we are going for the nice ending. Well then, I forgive you. Like, we don't actually know what he's done yet, but we don't think he's a bad person, so we forgive him. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, so what if you're a bad person? I can forgive you for that. They say no crime goes unpunished, but for me, no sin is unforgivable. I bet I must sound like Mother Teresa or something, huh? Regardless, I still forgive you no matter what anyone says, even you. You don't need to beat yourself up over it. At this, his eyes widened slightly. Pause to check. Okay. He looked to be on the verge of tears, so I gently stroked his head. This time he didn't make a fuss about it, he just quietly accepted it. And the hydrate time, okay. Then after a moment, he whispered. Oh? Uh-huh. You can tell me right now?
はい、今はまだ。
Well, okay. Once you've caught the big bad wolf, I'll be right there to hear you out. He pursed his lips together like he was biting back all the pain in his heart. His golden blonde lashes seemed to be trembling.
数日前までの自分はいつも一人で。
You know, for the fact that this is the second time she said specifically that his blonde lashes did something. Kind of sad that we don't see that reflected in the CG. Because he just has normal black lined eyes. Does the solitude bother you?
あなたと一緒です。寂しいとか嫌いだとか、そういった感覚がとっくにどこかへと置き忘れてしまいました。
I don't know. Personally, I prefer it if lashes actually get drawn on a character and people go wild with lash colors. Like, why stick to just black lashes? Live a little. You're free to draw whatever you want. Did you though? Are you sure you stopped? If you ask me, I bet you never once stopped hating it. Sure, maybe you were alone at one point, but then your friend came along, right? And then you met his sweet old grandma. You really think you could go back after that? I think deep down you've been conscious of your loneliness this whole time. But look at us now, Red. I have you and you have me. And there's more to the story, so much more. I just wish you'd open your eyes and see it. One sunny afternoon found me standing outside the flower shop, hesitant. I was torn, unsure which flower to buy, unsure which would make grandmother the happiest. At last I had saved up enough money to purchase flowers from the store. All those nights of going hungry would finally be worth it. I was in high spirits, excited for the gorgeous bouquet my money could afford. Red, white, pink, purple, yellow. The flower shop was awash in colors. Personally, I was partial to red. After all, it was the same color as the Ring Hood grandmother had given me. And in my eyes, that made it a special color. My attention was drawn to the roses, which stood out among the rest of the red blooms. I was by no means an expert in flowers, but roses were familiar at least. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford a full bouquet of them when the price for even a single rose was exorbitant. Oh yeah, roses are expensive as hell. I did, what do you call them? These small thingies where you work at a place to like check it out for a little while. You don't get paid. You don't necessarily get paid. I worked at a flower shop for 6 weeks. Well, one thing, I know I never want to work in a flower shop, but the other thing is, I was there during Valentine's. So we had special promotions going on for Valentine's, you know, special bouquets you could order. Because normally you can go in and you can go, okay, I want something like this, could you fix me up something? And then they go, okay, sure, what do you think about this and that? Or you could tell them, I want you to use this and that flower, blah, blah, blah. But for Valentine's, they were like, okay, we have these 6 special bouquets. So you can simply just order them and we will prepare them and you can come pick them up. We can wrap them in a special way, blah, blah, blah. So there was one bouquet, which is literally just 50 red roses. Yes, 50. 50 red roses. I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. It's not even that pretty. Like, if you want to give someone flowers as a gift, personally, at least, I'd rather it is a bouquet of different colors and flowers that work well together. Because the only thing I can see when I see a bouquet of 50 red flowers is, wow, that's a lot of money that could have spent on literally anything else. Because one red flower costs at least €1, if not more. Like, they're closer to €2 per one red rose you use in a bouquet. So imagine how much money you spend for one bouquet of 50 50 red roses. Sorry. I don't know. Just my 2 cents, because we had another bouquet which also had a few red roses, like 5 maybe, which is also still quite a lot, and then other flowers that would complement them more, in like soft pink or white and stuff, like just complement the red roses, because just 50 fucking red roses, you can barely hold that. You can barely hold that, and there's a very high chance that you will hurt yourself on the thorns. Yes, I'm very passionate about that. Because I just looked at the price and went, wow, I could buy so much food with that. And I am very sorry, as pretty as they are going to wilt at some point. Maybe I'm just not romantic enough to appreciate flowers. I don't know. Let's get back to the flowers here. I could afford to wait after all. Just then someone called out to me. Yo. It was unusual of him to track me down. And so at my friend's insistence, we headed to the lake where we first met. There he told me that he'd gotten into an argument with grandmother. Ooh. Yeah, that's because she cares about you. According to him, they'd gotten into an argument over a small trifle, leading him to run away from home. With that amount of flowers, you really want to be sure that the person likes it. Yeah. 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 I don't know. I also asked I asked 2 of them actually, like, if you walk with flowers every day, do you even want to get flowers for like special occasions? Because after working there for 2 weeks, I was already sick and tired of ever having to see flowers again ever. So she was like, well, of course I'd appreciate getting flowers. And I was like, okay, wrong question to ask. I will go now. I don't know. Also, after working there for 6 weeks, I got sick with a fever of 39 fucking degrees Celsius. I felt like I'd see God. So my memories of the place are not very nice now. You have to get better then. I wonder what character we know in this game who seems to be sick. I felt sorry for him. He was born with a weak constitution that made strenuous physical activity dangerous. So we both want to be what the other want to have what the other has. I was startled to hear this. I never imagined he would ever say such a thing. Unlike me, he had everything. He was smart and confident and extroverted and rich. The more I learned about him, the more he felt like he was from a different world entirely. And yet now he claimed he wished he was me. It was simply unbelievable. I'm afraid the mom is going to show up any moment. He dismissed my doubts with a laugh. Like, it's like, so far nothing has happened. She hasn't found out yet that her precious child, who was supposed to stay home, is not home. I don't trust that. He's gonna get hurt, isn't he? And so I agreed to his proposal. Was it because I'd seen a new side of him? Was it tickled by the thought of him envying me? I couldn't say. But if only I'd had the sense to stop him then, things never would have turned out the way they did. Ooh, there it is. We decided to build our tree fort deep in the woods. Meanwhile, I kept watch to ensure he didn't overexert himself. First, we collected tree branches, cardboard boxes, and other materials. Then I climbed up our chosen tree and used rope to affix them per my friend's instructions. According to him, this was how tree forts were made. Time flew by and soon the sun began to set. In our search for materials, we came across a large quantity of wooden planks. As we were hauling them back, however, we heard sirens in the distance. Just then I got a really bad feeling. Dread crept into my heart. The something cool was a blue tarp floating on the lake's surface. Neither of us knew what it was doing there. Maybe it was blown there by the wind. Positioning himself on the very end of the lake pier, he used a tree branch to attempt to reel the tarp in. Unfortunately, the tarp was at the mercy of the lake's tide, which pulled it back and forth. He's going to fall in, isn't he? With a firm hold on his calves to keep him from falling in, I kept a close eye on him. Oh, Jesus Christ. Just then a hard-eyed man came dashing out the forest. No. The man grabbed me by the arm. Huh? Just then there was a loud splash. My friend had slipped and fallen into the lake. Because he was forbidden from most physical activity, naturally he didn't know how to swim. The man whipped off his jacket. Unsure what to do, I just stood there. Well, it's not my grandma. He gave me a little push. I was torn between my friend drowning right in front of me and grandmother who had allegedly been whisked away to the hospital. After a fraction of a second, I turned my back on my friend and took off running. When I arrived, I found grandmother lying in a hospital bed. I swear to fucking God. I didn't understand what had happened. Just yesterday she was the very picture of health, but today she sat blankly up at the ceiling, her face pale and lifeless. Nope. Nope. Evidently her eyes weren't walking, or else she would have known it was me. I lowered my voice to try to sound more like my friend. There's no way she wouldn't be able to tell it's not Wolfie. Like, even if she can't see him, and even if he tries to change his voice, I doubt she would not be able to tell. Tears poured from her unseeing eyes. The sight made my own eyes grow hot, but I blinked back the tears and focused on my act. Oh, well, maybe not. Oh, yeah, okay, never mind. She actually thinks it's...
こと言うなよ。これからも一緒にいてくれよ。俺これからもっと元気になるからさ。俺が元気になった姿見たいだろ。俺足だって速いし水の中も泳げるんだ。木登りだって誰にも負けねえよ。だから俺を置いていかないで。
I choked out the words through my sobs. This was more proof that I was a bad kid. I was supposed to be a stand-in for my friend, but instead I was telling her my own feelings.
そうだ。俺ばあちゃんのために花束買ってきたんだ。花好きだろ。花？ああ、野に咲く花じゃなくてちゃんとした花屋で買った花なんだぜ。
I showed her the bouquet I had hastily purchased on my way here. Carnations were similar to roses, except softer and less intimidating, much like grandmother herself.
そうか。きっと綺麗な花なんだろうね。すごく綺麗なんだ。
Standing at her bedside, I took her hand and brushed it against the flowers. The red petals formed the perfect backdrop for a wizened old hand.
本当だ。すごく綺麗だ。ありがとう。お前はとても優しいいい子だよ。
She smiled softly and closed her eyes. I don't remember much of what happened after that. I'm not sure what happened to grandmother or how I got home from the hospital. I just remember standing outside my house. This time the lights were on inside. Was my mother home? By that point it was late at night. She must have realized that I disobeyed her. Would she yell at me? Would she cry?
ただいま。
When I opened the door I found my answer. It was then that I understood my mother wasn't going to yell at me, nor would she hug me. She looked at me with cold, unfeeling eyes, and after that day she never came home again. See? Don't we love parents in video games? Dear Lord, where did I go wrong? If I had obeyed my mother, if I had never ventured outside, if I had never spoken with that wolf, maybe this tragedy could have been averted. But now I am alone. Now I have no one. No one needs me. This is only natural, of course, because this is my punishment for being
これ
bad.
からはもう二度と道草なんか。
That was the war I made to myself.
ミス・アリス、ユリカ。
When I opened my eyes, I found Red blushing beet red. Sorry, guess I nodded off for a minute there.
いえいえいえ、とんでもございません。
His behavior struck me suspicious, but at the same time it was pretty par for the course where he was concerned, so I wasn't too worried. I looked around to find that the bright light of midday had now faded to twilight. Gosh, it's gotten late. Guess I got a little too comfy.
確か友人のお宅に伺う予定でした。
Oh, right. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, I want to check on him. Red lifted his head out of my lap and got to his feet. He offered a hand to help me up, immediately retracted it, then offered it again, more timidly this time.
どうぞ。
You sure?
いいです。
He turned his flushed face away from me. Thank you. His large, masculine hand, oh, Jesus Christ, he hauled me up onto my feet. I cannot help but make fun of stuff like that whenever I see it. Oh, his large, masculine hands and his big, masculine eyes. Wow, yes, exactly. That is exactly what I feeling like. Hehe.
早く行きましょう。夜遅くなるとこの辺は危ないですから。
Okay. The house marked on the map was a good 30-minute walk from the lake into the woods. It's supposed to be around here. I swiveled my head all around, but it was a forest. All the trees looked the same, so I had no landmarks to go by. Red followed half a step behind me. He seemed to have gotten quiet. Whoa! I slipped in some mud and nearly lost my balance, but Red caught me before I fell.
気をつけてください。この辺りは足場も悪いですから。
How would you know? Sorry about that. Thanks for the help. He let go of my arm and walked ahead of me.
私の後ろをついて歩いてきてください。
He didn't bother to turn back as he spoke. Normally I would be touched by his thoughtfulness, but his voice was cold and distant like it was back when we first met. Okay. And so I slowly followed in his footsteps. Is this the place? Eventually we arrived at a single cottage deep in the forest. Red stopped short, staring at the ground. I walked past him and right up to the front door. At my feet lay a single red flower. A carnation. It was bright and healthy looking, almost like it was fresh from the flower shop. I turned back to find Red still staring down at the ground. I scooped up the carnation and knocked on the door. Is anyone home? But no matter how hard I knocked, no one answered. For a moment I thought perhaps we had the wrong place, but this was the only house in the vicinity. Hesitantly I twisted the doorknob. Strangely enough, it was unlocked. The lights were all off, but the moonlight streaming in through the window faintly illuminated the interior. As I peered inside, out of nowhere someone clapped a hand over my mouth. They wrapped their arms around me, pinning me in place. Then, before I could even scream, they dragged me off somewhere. I didn't visit grandmother's house again until well after the hospital incident had passed. One day I found myself standing right outside. Instantly my face stiffened. Why did I come here? Didn't I promise myself I wouldn't do this anymore? I cursed myself 1,000 times. Suddenly I felt the contents of my stomach thrust up my throat and I vomited down the spot. The pain made tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but no one was there to help me. No surprise there, of course. This was my punishment. I collapsed to my knees and gasped for breath as I stared at the house. On first glance it seemed much the same as always, but upon further inspection I realized it had lost its lived-in feel. Somehow, even a total idiot like myself was still smart enough to understand what that meant. Grandmother was gone, and so was my friend. I was done that I understood. The real punishment was the searing pain I felt in my chest at that moment, and I needed to accept it, which is why I returned there again. Until then I had been avoiding the lake and the forest, but after that day I started making an active effort to visit that house. With each visit I remembered all the fun times we had, and my heart threatened to burst. At some point I developed the tradition of placing a single red carnation at the front door each time. It was a symbol of my crime as well as a token of my apologies. A year passed, then 2, then 3. As it turns out, time is a scary thing. You see, the more time passed, the more I felt my memories fade. Then a few more years passed, and I finally spotted that hard-eyed man again, Ryoshi, the hunter. Wait, what? What does he have to do with everything? Ow, that hurts! Quit yanking so hard! What the fuck do you have to do with everything? Whoa! He shoved me from behind and toppled to the floor like a sack of potatoes. Ow! With no time to brace myself, I hit the floor hard. I glared up at him. He didn't look very sorry at all. He leaned against the wall and returned my gaze with his almond-shaped eyes. Why are you doing this? Here in his forest cottage, my captor was none other than Mr. Huntsman. He reached into his pocket, took out a pack of cigarettes and set one between his lips. No smoking. Nope, not now, not ever. With guys like him, you have to take a hardline approach. Holding a cigarette between his fingers, Mr. Huntsman let out a shallow sigh. I am confused. He is. Like, what the fuck does our brother have to do with this suddenly? And with that cold, unfeeling comment, he shut the door. Now that I was alone... Yeah, I will definitely do as instructed. Not. Slowly, quietly, I reached for the doorknob. Whoa. The door opened so suddenly that I fell back onto the floor. Hehe. I tried to play innocent, but it was clear he had seen right through my little act. He fixed me with a cold stare that clearly conveyed how much of an idiot he thought I was. Then I noticed he had dragged someone else in with him. Look at that. You have actually not shown up here before. This other guy had blonde hair and blue eyes.
ま、話し相手くらいにはなってく
What?
れるだろうさ。
Huh? Flung into the room like meat to the dogs, the blonde guy promptly face planted on the floor.
あの冷徹冷血冷然やにくそ男、今に覚えておけよ。
Are you okay? At this, the guy leapt to his feet, clutched his swollen nose, and rolled to face me.
君はバカか。大丈夫なわけないだろ。君は現状把握もできないのか。
Well, you are very much still very loud, so you can't be hurt that bad.
知らずの囚われのお姫様気取りか。女に嫌われる女の典型だな。あーくそ、鼻が痛い。
Looks like you don't have a nosebleed. That's a relief.
話なんて僕みたいな儚げな美少年が出すわけないだろ。出すとしたら思春期のガキかむっつりスケベかギャグキャラと相場が決まっている。
Just then a stream of red descended from the fragile beauty's nostril. Alright, settle down, come sit over here. As he squealed unintelligibly, I took him by the arm and set him down. I grabbed the box of tissues off the shelf and pressed one to his nose. Just sit tight until it stops, okay?
残念だ。僕はそう簡単に君の策略に乗る気はない。
Man, technically I don't even know you in this world.
なぜならそもそも恩を売らせない借りを作らせないのだからな。どうもありがとうございました。ほら、これでチャラだ。
He may have talked a big game, but none of it was so intimidating with a tissue up his nose. You're welcome. I giggled and sat down next to him. So what's your name?
どうして君に名乗る必要がある？ちなみに、君の方から名乗れ無礼者とかいうどうでもいいやり取りをする気もないということ。そのすっからかんの頭に
Okay, but it would still be nice. Okay then, can I call you A?
はあ？いいわけあるか。名前がわからずとも、とりあえずあなたとかあなた様とか話を合わ
Doesn't
せ
mean
る
you
こ
get
とが
to
でき
give me
る
a
の
new
が
one.
二
Who do you
人
think
称
they
の
meant
良
the
さだ。
second person pronouns? If you don't, I can say. Okay.
あながち遠くない呼び名だからこそ微妙に腹が立つ。
Well, your name is Alice, isn't it? Oh really? So does your name start with A?
これ以上君とくだらないクイズをする気は毛頭ない。
Aha!
その
Look
正
at
解を教え
that.
てやろう。
His name is still
僕
very
の
much
名前は
Alice.
アリス。
Alice, what a coincidence. My name is actually really similar. It's...
別に言わずとも知っている。アリスだろ。
Yeah. Sekai! I shot him the finger guns. But how did you know?
僕が知っていることがおかしいか？むしろ当然だと思うがな。今までのことをその足りない頭で振り返ってみろ。
Mm.
君は君の名前を名乗っているだろう。というわけだ。これ以上君と付き合っていられないので、僕は寝る。
Okay. Good night. Alice promptly flung himself down and pulled the blanket over his head. Hey, wait, I thought you were supposed to keep me company. I shook him by the shoulder. Lord Alice! You have a really short fuse. A damsel in distress? He looked at me like I was pond scum.
君が囚われのお姫様だというなら、縄にでも縛られてた方が良かったな。全国のド M な乙女が狂気乱舞する。
I don't understand why he's suddenly here.
僕としても君が少しはおとなしくなってくれたのだ
This
としたら
house where
実は
apparently the
都合がいい
grandmother lived in? But I'm not a masochist.
なあ、君はド S だよ。
Oh, I am?
だいたい君が囚われのヒロインだというのなら、ヒロインらしい自覚を持て。な、姫がか弱いから、何らかの特別な力を持っているから、違うな。さらわれたものを救い出すという英雄的役割を男に与えるためにトラップ。
True not. He was completely right. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten my role in this. I got up and opened the window. A frigid breeze blew in. Pressing my windblown hair down, I responded to his wordless gaze. I just can't help but worry that he's out there, hurt and suffering all for my sake. To me, it doesn't matter how cliche it may be. Yeah.
君の悲劇のヒロインぶった気持ちの悪い干渉はどうでもいいので寒いから窓を閉めろ。早急にだ。
Fine. So much for a dramatic conversation. I have no clue what's happening. She's not here. She's not here, she's not here! She's not anywhere! She was all I could think of as I ran through the town.
二度と道草をしない。
From then on, I had pledged to live my life alone. I tried my best not to interact or involve myself with others. I lived hidden away from the public eye. I had no human connections, no friends, no lovers, nowhere to belong. No one knew I existed, no one cared. That's the way it was the year before last. That's the way it was last year. And that's the way it is now. I didn't feel sad about it. To me, it was the status quo. Until I met those nice people, this was just life. I had merely returned to how things always were. But then one person came along and changed everything. They lived together with me, touched me, spoke to me. To me, these things were completely unfathomable and unorthodox. I admit we wouldn't have lived together if it weren't for the choices I made, but it was only temporary. I wasn't straying from the path. I was using her for my own purposes, to carry out my own little revenge story. I spotted Ryoshi entirely by chance. He seemed to be having a fun conversation with a girl I didn't know. 5 years had passed since then and we'd both grown up, but I knew at once that he was the same guy from back then. The instant I looked at him, I felt my frozen heart start to thaw. Then all those memories I'd never bothered to remember came flooding back, and with it came a new emotion I hadn't felt then: resentment. I couldn't help but blame the entire grandmother incident on the fact that he had mistaken me for Wolfie in the first place. Yes, I knew this resentment was misplaced. I knew it wasn't his fault. I knew who I really ought to blame, but I didn't have any other way to vent his frustration. Like a river, time drifted on, and after months of agonizing over it, eventually I decided to go and talk to Ryoshi for myself. I didn't expect it to solve anything, of course. I was just hoping that it would help me sort out my feelings. But over those few months, Ryoshi had disappeared without a trace, leaving me unable to track him down. All I knew was that he had a younger sister who lived alone in a large mansion, and she was the very girl I had seen him talking to. That was when I formulated a plan. I would anonymously harass her in order to lure her brother out of hiding. I thought surely he would have no choice but to take action if one of his family members were in danger. So I tailed her, sent threatening messages to her house, then watched for a reaction. Although she was related to Ryoshi, I never felt any resentment toward her. I may have wanted to frighten her, but I never intended to harm her. Is this just an excuse to feel better about myself? Perhaps, but the point remains I never wished to do her any harm. Unfortunately, though his sister was in peril, Ryoshi never showed his face. Exasperated, I donned a policeman's garb in order to infiltrate the Arisu house myself. Aha! He isn't actually a policeman! Why a policeman? I couldn't tell you. Maybe he was attached to the idea of a hero who could fight evildoers and protect the weak. Meanwhile, she accepted me and my deception all too easily. Strange. All at once, the girl I had watched from afar was now right in front of me. I tried everything I could to scare her enough to get her to call her brother over, but it all backfired spectacularly. She seemed to feel safe with me around. She believed me when I said I would protect her, and over time I realized she was just as isolated as I was. Her family had left her all alone in a giant house in order to pursue their own ambitions. At first glance, she didn't seem that devastated about it, but I knew all too well how she must have felt deep down. I miss you. Over time, I grew to care for her more and more. She was like the sun, bright, warm, and lit up the room wherever she went. She was different from grandmother, different from my friend, and different from my mother too. She smiled at me, she cooked for me, she touched me, she consoled me, she claimed to love me. In just a few short days, she gave me so much. As I spent more and more time with her, it became harder and harder to breathe, like my chest was in a vice. I felt like I was drowning. There I was, flailing my limbs, desperate to reach the surface. Then she came along and pulled me up. All along, I had known the significance of this agony. I need you. A long, long time ago, I disobeyed my mother and ventured outside. If only I had obeyed her and kept myself cooped up in a dark house, I never would have made that discovery.
いいこと？あなたは他の子と違ってとってもいい子なの。だからお外で遊んではダメ。周りのみんなは狼なの。狼はどんな悪いことをするかわからないから、話しかけられても知らん顔をしているのですよ。
I'm sorry, Mother. The truth is I always yearned to explore the outside world. The temptation of the sunshine led me astray, and then I learned the truth. They weren't wolves at all. No, I was the wolf. And now, just as I yearned for the sunshine then, now I longed to be by her side. But she was taken from me, and I was powerless to stop it. At the time I was frozen in place, my knees quaking in fear. Some sorry excuse for a man I turned out to be. But I can't change who I am. I am a stupid weakling who dares not trespass into another person's space. I'm no policeman. Alone I whispered her name. But no matter how many times I called for her, she never responded. No surprise there, of course. Not like she was around to hear it. I knew all along. I knew the second blackmail letter was intended not for her but for me. Once I infiltrated the house as a policeman, my plan was to end the targeted harassment. But then a mysterious third party took up the reins in my stead, and their threats were steadily escalating. At first I wasn't sure what to do, but eventually I decided I wanted to rescue her from all the fear and uncertainty and loneliness. What an arrogant concept. I don't know what sort of person a wolf truly is. She told me she couldn't think of anything she'd done to cause someone's wrath. That was only natural, of course, because she was entirely innocent. If anything, I was the criminal who deserved punishment. And now that punishment has been dealt in the form of her absence. No crime goes unpunished, and I've committed an unforgivable crime. Thus I deserve retribution. However, I simply cannot abide her taking the brunt of it in my place. So I searched every place I could think of. I had no leads to go off of, so my only hope was to grasp at straws.
すみません。誰かいませんか。
彼女ならここにはいないさ。
え？
彼女。なぜ彼女のことが聞きたいということを知っている。
What?
知っているさ。なんでも
なら教えてくれ。
知ってどうする。
どうするってそれは。
腹を減らした悪い狼から彼女を救い出そうとでもしてるのか。
What the fuck is going on?
そうだ。
赤ずきん、確かに君は愚かで騙されやすい。だがしかし、狼が何に化けているのか気づいていないわけではないのだろう。罪には罰。彼女を食べようとした悪い狼は腹を切り裂かれ、中には石ころを詰められ、最後には溺れてしまう。それでも構わない。
Oh yeah. That's actually what happens in the fairy tale itself. That most people seem to forget about, but they cut open the wolf's belly and rescue the grandmother who has been eaten because she's the Little Red Riding Hood and the grandmother, they've both been eaten. And so he doesn't notice that they're missing from his belly. They fill it with stones, sew it back up. And, you know, when he goes up to drink, because he feels the need to drink something, he feels thirsty, he falls over because the stones in his stomach are so heavy, and he drowns.
それが狼の末路なら仕方のないことだ。
Love me some good fairy tales. Definitely good for the entire family, not scary at all.
真っ暗な世界に閉じ込められて怖い思いをしている。
それは漁師の役目では、君は漁師と違い何の武器も持たない無力な存在だ。騙されるだけの君に何ができる。
わからない。ただ騙されてもいい。
Still, I'm confused on what exactly is happening here.
彼女の喜ぶ姿を見たいだけなのです。
君は本当に愚かだな。
Like, Alice has not been in this story the entire time, and he suddenly shows up right now, apparently knowing everything. I'm not following. I have no clue what's going on.
考えることを放棄したバカには違いないがな。騙されるということは相手を信じている。疑わない。おそらくそれが君の武器でもあると同時に罪には罰。果たして本当にそうなのか。
罪には。
赤ずきん、彼女は今湖にいる。彼女はお前をとっても可愛がってくれたのだから救い出してやる。
Why do you know that?
きっと彼女も。
Also, why are you suddenly here when you were just in the house with me? Question mark.
赤ずきん、今度こそ道草するなよ。
There I was, standing on a lake pier. My hands were tied behind my back, and my captor's arm was around my neck, preventing my escape. Fortunately, he wasn't crushing my windpipe, so I could still breathe just fine. Who was my captor, you ask? None other than our very own Wolfie. He stared straight ahead, his lips pursed together, unsmiling. It was so unlike his usual demeanor that I could scarcely speak. Red would be here any minute now, and when he arrived, the big bad wolf was going to gobble him right up. Poor gullible Red Riding Hood. Please, won't someone save him from the darkness?
ゆりかさん
Sure enough, he turned up, his face ashen. He must have run around searching the whole town. He was gasping for breath with a pain expression on his face. Red! I shouted in my most anguished voice, almost like I was a princess in a tower.
動くな動いたらこの
Oh, look at that, he
女を
has
殺せ
little fangs. Nice. His tone was menacing as he pressed the dagger to my cheek. Yeah. Reflexively, I jerked away, causing his arm to clamp down tighter around my neck, and I began to struggle.
やめろやめてくれお願いだ
ざまあないな赤ずきいつもの余裕ぶった態度はどこ行ったんだよ脅迫状は読んだだろ罪を認めろお前の大事なものをぶっ壊すってな
Okay, so Wolfie is upset because it wasn't him at the time when his grandmother probably, I don't know, died at the hospital. And he's coming for revenge now? Many years after the fact? Why?
さあ女を殺されたくな
Also, why do you suddenly want to kill me, bro? I thought we were friends.
認めます認めますだからお願いします
言葉ではそう言えるよ
どうすればいい何でもする何でもするから彼女を傷つけないでください
ななんでもねそうだ赤ずきん
Oh, yeah.
お前が被っているその頭巾を脱いで
Time to find out why his head is hidden all the time.
そうしたら
The top of his
こいつを話
head?
してやるかもしれねえぞ
Hmm.
これを
どうしたできないのかただ脱げばいいだけなんだぞ
As he spoke, Wolfie dangled me over the lake.
脱ぎます
His face drained of color, Red reached up and grabbed the fabric. Then, hands shaking, he slowly but surely lowered his hood. There it is! Atop his head sat a distinctive pair of ears. Those ears! He hung his head, unwilling to meet my gaze.
どうしたこっちを見ろよ
At this, he looked up again.
それがお前の本性なんだ
Ta
よ
da da! Da 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 da! Who would have guessed? When he's wearing that cape all the time that he has. Another pair of ears!
そうです私の本当の姿は正義の味方などではなく
What do you... Personally, I preferred if when they have animal ears, if they are the same color as their hair. Because it looks so fake otherwise. His voice shook as he confessed the truth.
お前は狼ならどうすればいいかわかるな
No. Red collapsed to his knees and prostrated himself.
謝る私が謝るから
We...
彼女のことは許してください全部私が悪かったんですお願いですどうか許してください彼女には何の罪もないんです
His voice cracked with fear. Nevertheless, he screamed and begged, pleading for my sake. Red. I felt sorry for him.
なあ赤ずきん俺が誰かわかるか
誰か
俺はお前を知っているならお前も俺を知ってるはずだろ
Yeah, we hung out when we were kids.
それは
わからないのかよあっちゃん俺のふりをしてばあちゃんに会いに行っただろ
Using the hand currently holding the dagger, Wolfie reached up and pulled off his trademark black-rimmed glasses. After long, long silence, Red whispered.
狼なのか
ああそうだよ狼だ
Red's complexion turned snow white.
ごめんなさいごめんなさいごめんなさいごめんなさい
Oh wow, that's a great many stories.
ごめんなさいじゃねえよ今の今まで俺の正体に気づかなかったくせ
それは
If he doesn't look people in the eye, how would he notice?
俺のこと忘れてたか
そんなことはありません
Also, he kind of did shut those memories away, so...
覚えていましたあなたのことは一度も忘れたことはありません
そうだよな もお前のこと忘れてなかったぜ。もちろんあの日のこともな。ひどい話だよな。俺はずっと
You were literally drowning in the fucking lake. And your grandma was dying. Also, we were both literal children. What did you want me to do?
お前は俺を裏切ったってわけだ。溺れた俺を放っておいて、
Huh?
自分は大好きなばあちゃんの見舞いに行って、ちゃっかり俺のふり
I
してる
couldn't
んだもん
have
な。
saved you from drowning. I was another child.
お前のせいで、あの後どうなったと思ってんだ。お前に騙されたほしんな顔して何震えてんだ。全部お前が
Also, it's been
やった
what,
ことだろ。
10 years?
分かってます。
Get over yourself.
分かってねえよ。全然分かってねえ。俺はさ、ずっとお前のこと探してたぜ。お前を探し出してずっと伝えたかった言葉があったからな。なんだかわかるか。わかんねえよな。昔からバカだったもんな、お前。そりゃそうだ。みんなが学校行ってる間、お前はずっとこの湖で一人ぼっちでいたんだもんな。
Stop being so mean to me.
俺はそんなお前に声をかけてやったよな。遊んでやったよな。家にも招待して。俺たちはよくいたずらして、ばあちゃんに怒られたっけな。
Mm.
ばあちゃんは怖かったけど優しくて、俺たちはそんなばあちゃんのこと大好きだ。今もそれかぶってる。ばあちゃんはお前のために作った。ばあちゃんは分かってたんだよ。お前がずっとその頭気にしてるっての。なのにお前はばあちゃんが病気で弱ってる時にばあちゃんを騙そうとしたんだ。
ごめんなさい。
なあ、なんでお前はあの時、私は
Because I was a traumatized child?
って言わなかったんだよ。
Huh? That's why I didn't.
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
So, hi, how are you? I'm good. I'm
またそれか。
confused
いいか。
by this game.
俺はな、お前の謝罪なんて欲しくねえんだよ。
だったら
Yeah, what do you want?
罪を認めろって言ったろ。
I'm sorry for impersonating you when I was a literal small child, traumatized and in fear that the grandma I loved almost as much as you did, even though she wasn't my real grandma, was dying. What do you want me to say?
全然分かってねえよ。お前。てか何キレてんの。
I accidentally skipped like half of that. I'm sorry.
いい加減彼女を離せ。
Also, yes, fucking Yurika has nothing to do with that.
彼女には罪はない。
Confusion. Yeah, a little.
ああ、そうかもな。お前と彼女の罪は別物だ。てか、お前本当に彼女の
What crimes?
好きなの
What? Eh?
なあ、その好きってどうなの。
え？
それじゃあ、ばあちゃんの時と一緒じゃねえか。
Wolfie, what the fuck is your problem?
本当は自分に優しくしてくれるやつなら誰でもいいんだろ。優しくされたことがないから優しくしてくれるやつに懐いてるだけだ。お前は自分を捨てた母ちゃんの病棟を俺のばあちゃんに。
Mate, what the fuck are you
見
on?
てるだけだろ。
He let out an almost wolfish owl. As the scream rent the air, I grew worried that he might be breaking.
彼女をここで失っても大丈夫だよな。だって
What?
彼女がいなくて
Why?
も彼女の代わりは
What?
いるもんな。
What the fuck is Wolfie's
ばあちゃん
problem right now?
みたいにさ。
I'm gonna throw him in the lake again, see what happens. See if he has learned to swim now.
違う。
He screamed at the top of his lungs. He was consciously denying Wolfie's claim of his own
違
volition.
う。そうじゃない。確かに私はこんな私に優しくしてくれる人が好きです。
I mean, oh god, he's crying. I mean, he wouldn't want to be treated with kindness.
でも彼女の代わりは誰もいません。もちろんおばあさんも 狼のあなたのおばあさんには申し訳ないことをしたと思ってます。私はあなたが羨ましかった。私にはないものをたくさん持っていたから。
だから奪おうと思ったのか。
違うんだ、本当に。
でも結果的にお前はあの日嘘をついた。
Oh my god, get over yourself.
その通りです。
First of all, apparently the grandmother did not die immediately after. She apparently did find out that it wasn't Wolfie. So why? Why is Wolfie now, like 10 years after the fact, coming for his ass like, oh, you lied to my grandmother?
あの優しかったおばあさんが、元気だと思っていたおばあさんが、
10 years ago! They technically still lived in the same city.
それで漁師に手をつかまれ、病院に行けと言われて、私はおばあさんの孫は狼の方だ、私は違うと言うべきだったのに、おばあさんは私ではなく狼の名前を、私は漁師が私と狼を間違えたのをいいことに。
そうだな。そしてお前はその罪を漁師さんになすりつけようとしたんだな。
違います。
Red shook his head.
何が違うんだよ。でなきゃ脅迫状なんて送らねえだろ。
Well, a bad decision.
それはその通りです。私は本当は罪から逃れたかったんです。悪いのは私です。でもあくまでも嘘をついた動機は本当にすみませんでした。
His voice was watery. He bowed until his forehead pressed against the ground. Okay. Well, at least it's not just me who's ruining the emotional scenes. The train is also collaborating. Wolfie sounded sad, disappointed perhaps. Then he slowly moved the dagger.
罪には罰を。
やめろやめろ、彼女返せ。
Red lunged forward, screaming, desperate to get the dagger away from me. As Wolfie stepped back, his foot slipped. There he goes, and that was the last sound he made before the two of us plunged into the lake. The next thing I knew, we were drowning in the watery abyss. The lake was much deeper than I realized, and we were sinking to the bottom. More specifically, Wolfie still had his arm around me, inadvertently dragging me down as he struggled and panicked. As I choked, air escaped my lips and big bubbles arose to the surface. All I could see was blue, and the deeper we sank, the darker it became. I couldn't breathe. I flayed my limbs desperately, but to no avail. My leaden body refused to cooperate, and the light was growing ever more distant. Someone, please help us! I reached out my hand, and Red Riding Hood pulled us up. I doubt the Wolfie ever intended to actually hurt us. Once I was back on dry land, I coughed up the water lodged in my windpipe. Hydrate time? No! I'm coughing up the water! You're giving me a hydrate time! And a posture sector. Thank you, though. I could finally breathe again, but not without intense chest pain that brought tears to my eyes. Whoa! Red threw his arms around me. Red. There in his arms, the pain seemed to melt away. This time it was not my lungs, but my eyes that burned like they were on fire. You saved us. Thank you. He pulled away from me slightly and gazed at me. His eyes seemed damp with emotion. Or lake water, I suppose. Oh god, his crying is bright. Mm.
私の本当の正体は
It's
見ての通り
It's okay.
私はあなたを騙していたんです。
He squeezed his eyes shut. Tears trickled out between his lashes and rolled down his cheeks. I quietly wiped them away. Honestly, I'm the one who should apologize.
ゆりかさん
I knew you were deceiving me, and I was deceiving you right back. Oh!
私を騙す
Yeah, all the harassment that took place after you came to my house, all of it was completely staged. Huh? I'm so sorry. I hung my head in shame. Wolfie and Ryoshi told me all about you, and after everything I heard, I decided I would take part in their scheme. Not only did I hide it all from you, I took advantage of your kindness, and I can see how much our little stunt has hurt you. I'm really sorry, Red. Wait, what? Huh? At this sudden confession, Red felt quiet. I had braced myself for this, of course, but it didn't make the silence any less uncomfortable. I might have really hurt him. The thought was like a knife in my chest.
こりゃまたえらい目にあったな。
All of this was staged? Just then I heard a familiar deep voice from somewhere above me. I looked up to find Mr. Huntsman, Ryoshi, standing over us with a lollipop in his mouth.
よ、久しぶりだな。元気だったか？
I see. Well, that would at least make sense on why he would suddenly, I don't know, keep us in the room, in the house. But that still doesn't explain why Alice is there. Or why he was in that other house when Red was searching. What the fuck? That's a lot of big werewolves. Yeah, everyone's. Red pulled me close while glaring daggers up at my brother. No surprise there, I guess. After all, Ryoshi was the true mastermind behind this plot. Bless you. Wolfie looked at us reproachfully as he staggered to his feet.
狼
Oh, he was actually sick? He was actually sick?
突然襲いかかるなよ。マジビビった。
Huh? Please, I want answers. Now! He sniffed.
でだ、赤ずきんと狼と漁師と役者が揃ったところで、
We exchanged looks. Meanwhile, Red was struggling to process this. The dramatic tension had evaporated, leaving him blinking, baffled. Me too! Me too! I pulled away from him slightly to lead things off. First off, let's all introduce ourselves. I'm Yurika Arisu. Next!
アリス漁師だ。お前も知っての通り、アリスユリカの兄で漁師をしている。
Good!
で、最後に真打ち登場。俺様の出番ですね。俺は
You are not my lover!
アリスちゃんとは男女の仲を超えたソウルメイトで、漁師さんとは命の恩人兼師弟関係。で、赤ずきん、お前とは幼馴染で友達だ。
友達
おい、まずそこに食いつくんかい。てか、友達以外に俺たちの関係を表す言葉なんてある？
お前は私を恨んでるんじゃ。
誰が恨んでるって言ったよ。勝手に勘違いしてんじゃねえんだよ。
I shook my head. Honestly, I can't really blame him. After the blackmail letter and that little child of yours, anyone would think you hated them.
マジっすか？
Yeah, you know, even if it was just a stunt, you did kind of kidnap me and held a knife to my throat and told him, "Ooh, I will kill someone close to you." Ooh. Not really a thing you would do to friends, right? That's serious, my dude. I nodded and Wolfie winced apologetically.
いや、俺もつい途中から感情的になっちまったっていうかさ。
お知り合いなんですか？
Yeah, that is my male friend I make bento boxes for.
だからさっき言ったろ。アリスちゃんとは友達だって。
もしかして。
Yeah!
さんが言っていた
Exactly.
男の友人という
It almost went prank gone wrong. Yes! Prank gone wrong. But like in all caps. Yep, that was Wolfie.
もしもーし
Red seemed to have mentally shut down. Wolfie waved a hand in front of his
彼
face.
女を脅していたナイフは
なあこれおもちゃだよおもちゃ
It's just a prop knife! Are you kidding me? Wolfie pressed the tip of the dagger against his palm and the entire blade retracted into the handle.
もしかして屋敷を荒らしたりしたのも
あ俺
He raised his hand enthusiastically.
さすがにちょいやりすぎかなとは思ったんだけど漁師さんがさ
I see. So Ryoshi has to plant a bunch of new flowers. Mm-hmm.
やるなら徹底的にやらねえと真実味がないだろ
I still think you went overboard personally. I'm guessing you want to know why you were deceived, huh?
はい
Me too. Long story short, we wanted you to understand. It was like a moral
教
lesson.
訓
We want to show you that you're not alone. We wanted you to realize that.
孤独じゃない
Ryoshi and Wolfie told me basically the whole story. They were both worried about you. See, you're convinced that you're all alone and that you have to be. To you, anything else would be a sin because this is your self-enforced punishment for the crime you committed. But the truth is you hate it more than anything. You've always hated being alone. But your integrity kept you from acknowledging that fact. You stubbornly refused to accept it. Then, as the years went by, your loneliness became the status quo. But too much solitude would turn your heart to ice. So we felt we had to save you before you froze over completely. Then I got a blackmail letter from you, so the three of us talked about it and we decided to use the opportunity to our advantage. That said, not everything went exactly according to plan. I gave a self-depreciating laugh.
私は
ていうかひでえよあっちゃんなんで俺のこと見てすぐに気づかねえんだよせっかく狼イコール狼つながりでわかりやすいヒント出したってのに
Well, if he thinks of himself as the big red wolf, he wouldn't recognize someone else as a wolf, I guess.
忘れてない忘れてないけど狼はそんなダサいメガネなんてかけてなかったし
なあ今笑ったっすねひって
うるせえ無駄口叩いてねえでとっとと
Let's get you
話を進
somewhere
め
where
ろ
you're not wet. At last, Ryoshi broke his silence in order to land a kick on Wolfie. Like, he's definitely going to be sick again. Ryoshi jerked his chin in a gesture of shut up and explain your side of things.
俺さずっとお前のことが気がかりだった
Mm-hmm.
お前が俺のふりしてばあちゃんの見舞いに行ったあの日からお前は俺の前から姿を消したで俺もすぐに手術のために引っ越すことになった
Ah.
お前と会うこともなくて俺さ無事に手術も成功して元気になって思いっきり走れるようになったんだぜ
Nice.
昔とは違うんだもう無理だとかしちゃダメだとか言われないしそんな俺がなんでこんなクソ田舎に戻ってきたと思う
Backwoods put on town.
全部お前のためなんだよ
It's not that bad, right? Wolfie pointed squarely in Red's
私
face.
のため
そうだよでようやくお前を見つけて喜んで話しかけたってのにスルーだぜスルー
いつのことだ
俺がこの町にやってきてすぐのことだよ
Oh?
ほら覚えてねえし
仕方ないだろ時間も経っていたし
そりゃそうだけどさ俺は分かったんだし白状じゃね
I still wonder though, how did Red survive all those years?
ってあの時は思っ
If
て
he
ね
lives in solitude and he doesn't actually have a job, how does he get money and food?
その時にお前の事情をいろいろ聞いたあの後お前
Also, doesn't anyone have to, like, I don't know, care about a child that was abandoned?
あの時のことずっと気にしてるなんて思わなかったよ
Like, doesn't anyone... Has no one ever talked to the mother that just went fucking rogue?
ばっかじゃねえの
Am I the only one who's worrying about
だ
that?
っていいだろ
いや俺にはお前にいろいろ言う権利があるね
れは
俺があの後どれだけお前を探したと思ってんだ。
I can hear thunder starting to go off.
俺はお前に言いたいこといっぱいあったんだよ。
Maybe it's actually going to start raining later. I hope so. I was mad about you ghosting me.
その後俺の前から姿を消したことに怒ってんだよ。
ごめん。
もういいよ。俺さ、ちゃんとばあちゃんの見舞いに行ったよ。溺れたのを助けてもらった後、漁師さんに病院に連れて行ってもらって、ばあちゃん元気だったよ。悪い病気。
Oh god, she didn't die. Good to know.
そんで俺、ちゃんといつもわがままばっか言ってごめん。ばあちゃんこんな俺のこといいよって笑って許してくれる。
そうか。
でさ、友達を大事にしなさい。あの子はとても素直で真面目ないい子だよ。でもね。
See, the grandma did notice it's not him.
だから俺が強くなって
Grandma was not
あの子
dumb.
を助けてやる。
She wouldn't. She wouldn't.
綺麗なお花ありがとう。
Yeah, there's no way she wouldn't be able to tell apart her own grandson.
その声は。
ああ、そうだぜ。ばあちゃんの孫の狼だよ。ばあちゃん、ごめん。ごめん。俺、わがままばっか言って。
いいんだよ。おばあちゃんは狼ちゃんが元気でいてさえくれれば、狼ちゃんがお父さんとお母さんと離れてとっても寂しいこと。おばあちゃん何もし
Why do hospital beds look like that?
ごめんね。
そんなことねえよ。確かに俺、こっちに一人で来て初めの頃
I
は
ask myself this every time I see them, but why are they like
親
this?
父もおふくろもいなくて寂しかったけど、いつもそばにはばあちゃんがいてくれたし、
Hmm.
二人とも俺の大事な宝物なんだ。
そうかい。よかったよかった。おばあちゃんもね、二人が仲良くしてるのを見てるのが
Aww.
楽しかったよ。
あんた、そんな言い方するんだよ。
Because I'm dying, Wolfie.
もっと一緒にいてよ。
No, she's not. She's a strong lady.
そんなことない。赤ずきんちゃんがいるだろう。
いるけど、でも俺、その花。
Ah. Ah, yes. It's raining now. Oh god, it's raining now.
綺麗だろう。あの子がしてくれたんだよ。赤ずき
ASMR.
素直で真面目ないい子だよ。狼ちゃんに赤ずきんちゃんみたいなお友達ができて、でもね、だからこそあの子は一人で抱え込んじゃうんだ。だから狼ちゃんが強く
Yeah, but then he ghosted me.
あの子を助けておやり。
So I
狼ちゃんは
couldn't be there for him. Dun dun dun.
助けられたんだろ。
俺、あいつの助けになるよ。
狼ちゃんはいい子だね。
当たり前じゃん。だって俺、ばあちゃんの孫だもん。
I gotta say, in the middle of all of this, before they, you know, said it was all kind of a
お
prank,
ばあさんは
I actually started to dislike Wolfie. Just a little bit.
お前な、マジで全部お見通しなんだよ。お前は、お前の周りにいる人たちのこと甘く見すぎなんだよ。お前の周りにいる奴らはな、
これを含めてお前のことちゃんと見てんだよ。
Mm.
俺だってな、ガキの頃体が弱くて静養のためだからって都会からこんな田舎に一人ばあちゃん家に預けられて、周りに誰も知り合いはいねえし、学校も満足に行けねえし、寂しかったんだよ。お前が湖で一人でいるのを見て、ああ、こいつもしかしたら俺の仲間かもしれないって思った。だから声かけて、何度も声かけて、諦めかけた時に
Oh no, he's also going to sacrifice.
俺嬉しかったんだよ。一人がいいだなんて嘘だ。本当は俺だって誰かと仲良くしたかった。
Mm. Oh no. Wolfie's tears were contagious and Red soon began to shed a few of his own.
そうだ。外に出てはいけないという言いつけを破ってまでも出たかったのは。
Hug it out, please. I cannot watch this. Hug it out.
狼と会って、おばあさんと会って、
Mm.
おばあさんが倒れたと聞いたとき、怖かった。もしもおばあさんがいなくなったら、でも結局自分のせいで一人に逆戻りになって、ずっと寂しかった。寂しかった。
Tears rolled down his cheeks as his heart began to defrost.
ようやく認めたの。
何を。
それがお前が抱えていた罪の正体、つまりは罪悪感だ。
罪悪。
ああ、そうだ。聞いたことくらいはあるだろう。自分のありように関して自分は悪い。お前は過去に起きた出来事により心を深く閉ざしてしまう。お前は笑うことを、幸せになることを許さなかった。ゆりかも言ったが、長年の孤独はお前の心を凍らせてしまうだろう。その証拠に俺をどうにかしようとしたろ。内包した罪悪感が許容を超えた時、自分でも意識しないうちに過剰な行動に出ることがある。それは自分を傷つけるだけでなく、
But good thing we managed to stop him before that happened, I guess.
お前は今まで自分を厳しく罰していたようだが、それはいつまでも続かない。そんな時に偶然再会した俺を憎むことで、かろうじて救われてたってわけだ。俺も漁師という仕事の関係上、これ以上手遅れになる前に、あとはまあ、お前にトラウマ作っちまったのは俺にも原因があるってのが気がかりで、まあそのトラウマを乗り越えてもらえるよう、俺が今回の脚本を用意してやったわけだ。
Yay!
まあ、どっかの誰かが大幅に書き換えちまったけどな。
Hehe. I looked away awkwardly. But then Yoshi grabbed me by the hand and forced me to look at Red.
罪悪感を癒すには誰かがお前を許す。ああ、そうだ。正直こんなクソまどろっこしいことしなくたって、ばあさんが話だ。だがお前の場合はただそれだけじゃ解決しねえんだよ。
I'm gonna fucking animate a little train and put it down there on the lower half of the screen and have it run every time a train comes by. Hold me to that, I will do it. I swear to God.
お前が許されたと感じるためには、まずお前が自ら罪と向き合わなければならなかった。
It's like one day we will have someone die on screen and everyone's crying and then a fucking train will come by and just destroy everything.
お前は悪くないと。お前の善も悪も全て受け入れてくれる。そんな人物の登場を待っている。俺が書いたのはそういう筋書きだ。
Red looked from Wolfie to me.
お前が一番よく知ってんだ。
つうわけだ。後の問題はお前に任せる。
Yoshi patted me on the head. Right.
ゆりかさん。
I balled my fists in my lap. Then, after a deep breath, I looked Red squarely in the eye. I'm sorry, Red. Regardless of my motive, the fact is I deceived you. I won't ask you to forgive me, and I won't blame you if you hate my guts for it. What? This unexpected reply caught me off guard. But it was all an act, everything. I tricked you. I knew Wolfie and Ryoshi were behind a lot of the harassment, but I chose not to tell you on purpose.
それは分かっています。しかし、そもそもあなたを巻き込んだのは
Okay, valid point. Wait, no, it isn't.
私はただあなたが無事で
I had meant to say I'm a bad person before he interrupted me. As I stared at him in surprise, he smiled slightly.
私はあなたが傷つくことがうわミスアリス
Oh my
ど
god.
うしたんですか
Oh no, now she's also crying. Tears streaked down my face one after another. My vision blurred until all I could see was a vaguely red smear. Then I hugged my head and choked out. You're just too good to me. Please, call me by my name. I don't know how I found the strength to make that selfish demand at a time like this, but somehow I did.
ゆりかさん
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat that?
ゆりかさん
What is it, Red? I looked up and donned a smile, but my face was still messy with tears, so it must have looked pretty pathetic. I was just so happy that he smiled at me, I couldn't stop myself.
一つ聞いてもいいですか
Sure, what is it?
あなたが私を騙していたというならあなたが私を好きだと言ったこともいえ
Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy? Why's that?
私はバカですから疑うことを知らないんです
Well, that's one way to think positively. He smiled shyly. Oh, Red. Will you forgive me for my part in the deceit?
私はあなたを許しますそして私自身を許します
Red. Ah! Unable to hold back, I threw my arms around him. Ah, right. They're all still wet. I forgot. They're all still wet from, you know, for having fallen into the lake. My things are gone. My everything's gone. Well, that's not good. Overdosed. I love you so much.
ゆりかさんそんな状態で抱きつかれたら
Get your mind out of the gutter. It's just a hug, bro. Go ahead and have your nosebleed. I'll be right there to mop it up or punch me until I let go. Either way.
そんなことはしないですけどお兄さんも狼もいますし
Then consider me an exhibitionist. It's just a hug.
手打ちプレイ
あ、今変な想像しただろ。いやらしい。
No, I was reading out loud what it said in the game.
してないしてませんからね変な想像なんてするわけないだろうお前じゃあるまいしエロ狼
なんだよ。俺らガキの頃、ばあちゃんに隠れてエロ本読んでたな。
Why did the grandma have porno mags in her attic? What? Ha! Now I get it. So Wolfie's been a bad influence. Don't worry, any boyfriend of mine is permitted to dabble in porn magazines no matter how cute.
マジで？なあアリスちゃん、こんなどう
Jesus fucking Christ!
遊ぼうよ。俺の方が絶対楽しいって。
Help! Good thing that this stream is 18 plus. Hate to break it to you, Wolfie, but I'm not the type to go astray. Also, you are not a love interest in this game.
この辺にしておけ帰るぞ狼
マジでお兄さん妹ちゃんが突入してもいいんす
湖に捨てるぞ
それだけはマジ勘弁っす
Help me.
死ぬと思ったんすからねブレークション
おいユリカとりあえず固まってるそいつを何とかしてやれ
Sure thing. Thanks, Oni-chan. Big brother. Yeah. I wonder what that could mean. And so Ryoshi walked off, dragging Wolfie by the scruff of the neck. As for Red, he was opening and closing his mouth in rapid succession like a fish was to shore. Well, looks like it's just the two of us. With my arm still around his neck, I batted my lashes flirtatiously. Jesus Christ. I cannot with this game. Yes. Huh? You mean like a kiss? How else would you touch my mouth? Yeah, I'd like that. I pecked him on the lips. What does they always say afterwards? Thanks for the treat. Yeah, you're a wolf. Ba ba ba. I'm not going to stop loving you just because you're a wolf. I mean, sure, your animal side may catch me off guard from time to time, but I'm not entirely opposed. If anything, it's actually kind of endearing. I mean, they're fluffy ears. Who doesn't love fluffy ears? Ever since the boys told me about you, I was always a little curious, and after spending time with you, I was officially head over heels. So I asked Wolfie to give me a slightly different role to play. You're always so earnest and dutiful, your shy side is adorable, you're sincerely sweet, you're just all around lovable. So? I promptly shut him up with my lips. But in the CG, the lips are not actually touching. We slowly pulled apart and I smiled. Well, consider that your punishment for lying to me. Now it's your turn to punish me. Oh my god, Eureka. I closed my eyes as if to say, have at it, Taika. Oh my god. The second kiss apparently exceeded its maximum threshold because he exploded into a nosebleed and passed out. What the? Red, pull yourself together. Red. There he fucking goes. Good night, sweet prince. Ah, right. This dude. We would have seen this dude before by now, if we had gone for any of the bad endings. We did not. He's... I don't know, he's doing his thing, bro. I wonder who he is. But by the way, this is the reason why I always go for like the true ending of a thing first before I do the bad endings, because in this game's case, I think it's really awkward if you go for the bad ending and you see this guy show up and he tells you some stuff about, this is not how the story's supposed to go. You wonder who I am? Well, blah 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 blah. You won't find out, and then he's just gone and you have to, you know, continue reading. I don't know what to think about him. I think he's a love interest in the third game though. But I don't trust him. I don't trust him at all. Once upon a time there lived a lonely little boy. The boy is perpetually isolated. Why? Because his mother had warned him that the outside world was full of wicked wolves and he wasn't to speak with them. And so he lived hidden away from the world with no personal connections. But the boy yearned to explore the world, and one day while his mother was away, he snuck out of the house to visit the lake. The outside world was vast and filled with things he'd never seen before, but the boy only ever ventured to the lake alone. It was expected for children his age to attend school, but not him. Then one day, a boy named Wolfie called out to him. The lonely boy remembered his mother's warning and tried to ignore Wolfie, but over time he found it hard to believe that the other boy could be wicked. The more they talked, the closer the two boys became. Wolfie had a poor constitution and lived together with his grandmother. After she met the lonely boy, she sewed him a Red Riding Hood so that he could conceal his unusual appearance from the world. It suited him well, and from that day forward, everyone referred to him as Red Riding Hood. Every day spent with Wolfie was a blast for Red Riding Hood. Day after day, he would sneak out of the house to go see him. One day, the two boys were playing together when all of a sudden a man rushed over to them. The man told them grandmother had fallen ill and was looking for a grandson. Then the man grabbed Red Riding Hood's arm instead of Wolfie's. "I'm not Wolfie." It should have been an easy feat to correct the misunderstanding, but instead Red Riding Hood left to go visit Grandmother in place of Wolfie. In doing so, he had betrayed not only his mother, but now Wolfie and Grandmother as well. When he returned home that night, he was surprised to see that the lights were on. His mother was home. Hesitantly, he opened the door, and inside he found his mother staring at him with cold, distant eyes. After that night, his mother never returned to him again. He cursed himself for disobeying her. If only he hadn't disobeyed his mother and gone astray, he never would have betrayed and ultimately lost everyone he ever cared about. Alone, Red Riding Hood looked at himself in the mirror. Big ears, sparkling eyes, and a deceitful tongue. That was when he realized the real reason his mother had kept him inside was because he himself was a wicked wolf. From then on, Red Riding Hood decided never to get attached to anyone ever again. Instead, he chose a life of quiet solitude. His mother was gone, Wolfie and his grandmother were gone. He lived alone without anyone by his side. He would never go astray again. This was his punishment. Time passed. One sunny day, a much older Red Riding Hood spotted a hunter walking by. As luck would have it, it was the same man who had mistaken him for Wolfie that fateful day. The hunter was walking with a princess whose smile was radiant like the sun. Weighed down with crushing loneliness, Red Riding Hood grew unbearably jealous. Then something occurred to him. If he transformed himself into a police officer to protect the princess, he could use her to get close to the hunter. Having successfully wormed his way into the princess's castle, Red Riding Hood attempted to frighten the princess, but nothing worked as planned. Instead, an entirely different big bad wolf started to harass her as well. The more time he spent with her, the more he sincerely wanted to keep her safe. But the more he fell for her, the more guilty he felt for deceiving her. Once he caught the big bad wolf, Red Riding Hood vowed to confess everything to the princess. But the moment he took his eyes off of her, she was kidnapped by the big bad wolf. When he went to the lake to rescue her, there he found a much older Wolfie holding the princess hostage. As it turned out, Wolfie was the other big bad wolf. He ordered Red Riding Hood to admit his crimes in exchange for the princess's safe return. Convinced that his friend resented him for visiting Grandmother in his place, Red Riding Hood apologized again and again. But Wolfie didn't care. Eventually, Wolfie lost patience and tried to hurt the princess. In a panic, Red Riding Hood lunged forward, sending the three of them toppling into the lake. Once Red Riding Hood had rescued the two of them, he apologized for his deceit. "The truth is, I'm a big bad wolf." At this, the princess's sunny smile clouded over and she apologized in return. "I knew you were deceiving me, and I was deceiving you right back." Then the hunter walked over and revealed the truth. It was all part of an elaborate ploy set up by Wolfie, the princess, and the hunter himself. Now an adult, Red Riding Hood was still chained down by the sins of his childhood, and solitude was his miserable punishment. There was only one way to save him: to forgive his crimes. When Wolfie told him to admit his crimes, what he really meant was come to terms with your mistake. The princess forgave Red Riding Hood for telling lies, and Red Riding Hood forgave her in turn as well as himself, and so, vindicated by the power of love, Red Riding Hood and the princess lived happily ever after. Oh, I wouldn't have been surprised to see a kiss CG like the one with Egan. Right? Like, I don't know. A bit more steamy? But I guess not. Thank you for the hydrate time. Ta-da! Kaguya, Gretel, Snow White. Ah, see, the wizard is at some point also, Oh, Natsuki Hana. Ah, that's why the voice was so familiar. Yeah, they have some pretty big names in here, not gonna lie. I'm still confused though. Like, what was Alice's role in this? Because he really only showed up towards the ending. For no reason at all, it wasn't really explained. He was just in that house. Then he talked to Yurika like for 2 lines. There she is. Translator Molly Lee. Twitter user @verdilishp. I really like her translating works. The opening theme is called Some Song I Forgot. Hey, what's that song called? Oh, that's Some Song I Forgot. Yeah, I was asking for the name. Yeah, Some Song I Forgot. It's a nice song. Yeah, I don't get Alice's part in this. Damn, Google actually finds the song. Ooh. Google is big brain. Once upon a time in a looking-glass world, there lived a lonely young man who spent all his days in perfect solitude. He lived hidden away from the world with no personal connections to speak of. But that's all in the past now. Hello? Who is it?
Akatsuki です。よかったら開けていただけると助かります。
Red, welcome. You're rather early. Aww.
ゆりかさん。
Look at him.
この度はお茶会にお招きいただきましてありがとうございます。
Of course, likewise. Thanks for coming.
ゆりかさん。
Yes, what is it?
このお花。
Wow, what lovely carnations for me.
はい。
Aw,
あなたのことを
they're actually really
思って摘んで
pretty.
きました。
Thank you so much. I love them.
喜んでいただけて何よりです。
Now come on in. I've made your favorite cake too. Yes, the blueberry cake. At least I'm pretty sure that's what grandmother must have used in a recipe.
私のために。
Oh my god, wait, that's actually stuff I haven't seen yet, so that means I fucked up the cake last time I played this game. Ha! Of course, I promised, didn't I?
守ってくれたんですね。
Duh, any promise I make with you is a promise I want to keep.
だ。
For the record, if you steal me away, I can bake cakes for you anytime you like.
捕まえれば。いえ、結構。
What's that? Marriage?
違います。結構。
Caw, what are you, a crow?
もうそれでいいです。
I'm just messing with you, silly. Yes.
まだ狼や漁師さんは来てはいないんですよね。
Nope, just you so far.
そうですか。いえ、その。
Right, care to explain why exactly you turned up ahead of time?
それはその彼らに。
Yeah, maybe the guide I was losing last time wasn't completely correct. Like, it did give me the good ending as well, but like, there was that small difference. So you wanted to be alone with me?
そうです。
Hmm.
あなたと二人きりになりたかったんです。
Of course not. むしろ大歓迎. If anything, I support it.
そうですか。よかった。それでですね。
So is everyone else in here also just bilingual that they understand when she randomly starts talking Japanese, or what question? Yes. Oh. Should have seen that one coming. Okay, poof, memory deleted.
では、もう一度やり直しますね。
Okay.
ゆりかさん、私は
Yes.
あなたのことが
hello?
すみません。わざとじゃないんです。つい。
It's okay, you can do it.
なんというか、こういうことには慣れていなくて。というより、初めてと言いますか。
Look, Red, you don't have to tell me today. I'll gladly wait until you're ready.
いえ、それではダメなんです。
Okay, why is it unacceptable?
それはあなたにばかり告白させて、それをいつまでも保留にするのは男らしくありません。
Red.
カーネーション。ゆりかさん、あなたは知っていますか？
Nope, I do not. I do not know flower language at all. Nope. Will you tell me?
赤いカーネーションの花言葉は母の愛。
Hey.
愛を信じる。それと熱烈な愛。
Ardent love.
ゆりかさん、私はあなたのそばにいると
Ho ho.
溺れたように息が苦しくなって心臓がドキドキして
Mm.
わけがわからなくなるんです。
Mm.
でもそれは決して嫌な気持ちではなくて、そしてあなたと離れているときはあなたの
He
顔
can
ばか
say
り
all
が
this,
思い
but
浮か
he
べ
can't say I love you.
で、それはなぜなのか自分なりに考えてみたんです。
Oh my god.
その結果、いえ、違いますね。私はあなたに
You can do it. I believe in
い
you.
つの間にか夢中になっていたのだと思います。ゆりかさん、好
Yes.
きです。私はあなたのことが大好きです。
There it is.
あなたが私との約束を守ってくれたように、私もあなたとの約束を守ります。私はあなたを守ります。世界中のどんな悲しみや苦しみからも
Aww.
あなたを守ってみせます。
Mm.
だから、その
Red, what's that?
これは私を騙したあなたへの
Indirectly through the flowers.
花束越しですが、
Eh?
これでおあいこにはなりませんか？どうしましたか？顔が真っ赤ですよ。もしかしてまた風邪ですか？
My chest aches and I can breathe.
それは大変です。今すぐベッドに運ばないと。
Oh god. Bed.
ゆりかさん、
And they lived happily ever after. Yay! Oh no. Ah, there we go. Da da da! Woo! They did! They lived happily ever after. Hehe. That's it. That's it for Red Riding Hood's story. So we found out he was deceiving us, but we were also deceiving him. That's the problem when you've such a mind in that situation, right? Right? And it wasn't even like there was anything big going on. It's just like, okay, he finally told us he's also in love with us, which is very nice. Oh my god. I like this game. I really do. I really do like it. So, but yeah, it reading it out loud, it sure is way longer than it was when I read it for myself. I'm sorry that I say that every time, but it's just so surprising to me. Like, the fuck? There's no way it actually takes me that much longer simply because I'm reading it out loud. But apparently it is. So, I don't know why, but... well, another 3 hours. So, that means next time we can go for Cinderella, who is also on the screen right now, you know, the blue-haired guy. It's gonna open up with another world. Don't be confused. I was very confused at the time. Don't be confused. It's going to be a different setting. Forget all about how the characters were related before. And like, try to go in fresh. because well, it's completely different next time round, so I still don't know what's up with Alice, and I need to hold myself back from spoiling myself on that. You also let the lines be read out loud when they're voiced. Oh, you're right. When I read stuff on my own, I never let the voice lines play out. Oh, very rarely. Sometimes I do want to listen to them if it's in a specific situation, but most of the time I literally just press the buttons as soon as I'm done. True. Actually having all the lines read out loud is also making it go for even longer, but that's okay. I hope you're enjoying the game so far, because we will be stuck with Taisho Alice for quite a while longer. There's 4 games in the series, so I guess next week we'll go for Cinderella, and then we go for the second. Yeah, we're going to be stuck with this for like the next month probably to finish all of them. Rediving to speaking whole sentence often really takes it. That's very true. If I wasn't streaming, I would literally just click as soon as I'm done myself. Which would honestly not look very fun. Like, to follow along with. And also that would kind of destroy the point of streaming it, right? That would be horrible to watch. Okie dokie. But I realize that it's once again already 11 PM on a Sunday, which means it is time for me to get some sleep and end this stream, because it's a new week tomorrow, sadly, as always, as every single week ends, a new one starts. Raid we're going to raid Leary again, who's still playing Talos Principle. And I am very interested in that game. Was a nice stream, good night. I'm glad you think so. Let me just switch up the screen. There we go. Here's the ending song. I wish you all a very good night. Thank you so much for coming. Good night. And bye bye.